Against the Bengals last Sunday. On Wednesday, linebacker Devin Bush was named the AFC's Defensive Player of the Week. Bush recorded 14 tackles and returned an interception, 97 yards for a touchdown. Bush wins the award for the first time since 2019. The Medina County Sheriff's Office says they've arrested 3 people in connection to the break-in at the home of Shador Sanders back in November. Authorities say a 4th subject is still on the run. Now, when Sanders made his NFL debut against Baltimore November 16th, thieves broke into his Granger Township home and stole about $200,000 worth of goods. Meanwhile, last night on the ice, Cleveland Monsters knocking off the Toronto Marlies 5-4 in a shootout. Can I find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next, have the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The Afternoon Drive.
I don't care about the outside noise. What have you seen from the kid? Have you met him? What do you think of him?
I think it's very, very soft of any potential head coach to come into a building and then tell Andrew Berry we can't do it because of Shador.
I want to be there.
I don't think Andrew Berry likes Shador. I don't think he's ready to say I'm done with them and this is your call.
It's not about Shador, though, to me.
Or whatever comes with Shador, can you deal with that? And if you can't, I got bad news for you. There's always going to be a quarterback with an Instagram following. There's always going to be a wide receiver that wants to go on Dancing with the Stars. There's always going to be a running back that is dating a Kardashian, okay? This exists all throughout the NFL.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Everybody. Sounded like to me like Carman. Hey, you'll have that every now and then. Audio courtesy of ESPN and NFL Network, depending on what happened. Hi, how are you?
What's up, Kenny?
It's good to see you. Off we go.
Yes, it's an exciting day. We are another full day into the Browns coaching search.
Yeah.
What could happen? What kind of fun names could be bandied about?
Oh, I don't know.
After yesterday was our John Harbaugh exploration.
Well, I wish I could tell you. Anyway, all right, hold on here.
A full day in. We asked this yesterday. I couldn't find one person, other than my analytics buddy, I couldn't find one person that didn't want Harbaugh, that wouldn't just take him. So nobody was really all that bothered by the age.
Wait, you said not one person that wasn't an analytics person? What are you saying?
Yes, I couldn't find one just normal like Pete in Parma, Dennis in Middleburg Heights, okay, Johnny in Collinwood. I couldn't find one person, Kenny, that didn't agree with you. Go out and go get John Harbaugh.
Yeah, well, I see. I don't like the whole argument. This is what bothers me here. Obviously, I got a massive distraction going on right now, so I'm trying to focus on you here. I'm trying not to get caught in these arguments here. And I think a lot of people have gotten very emotionally involved in things. And guys, we have to think about this. Browns first. Everything needs to be Browns first on all these arguments, whether it be head coach, whether it be, and honestly, maybe even Browns fan first. What do you think is good for your football team? What do you believe in your true heart of hearts? Stop the arguments on the internet with people from all over the country. Stop the arguments on the internet with the people who post the great big paragraphs, long things about whether or not they love or hate Shador Sanders.
You don't read any of those?
All that. Oh, God. People forward them to me, and I'm like, nope, not reading all that. Goodbye. The one dude who I thought was a parody account, apparently he's real, calling Shador all types of terrible names. John something.
People are not exactly...
John Branch or something. I don't know what his name is.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And then, that's it. Yeah. That's the guy. And then there's...
of course I would
Then
know.
there's the other ones that basically look at him like a deity, and I'm like, guys, get out of that.
There's a
Focus on Browns.
Look, there's a lot of fun ways to examine the culture of these players as they're coming out of college now. They're more of a brand than they've ever been. And people are attaching themselves
there's just no room
onto the success and failure of these guys.
There's no room in the middle for good old common sense, and I'm not going to be drawn into it. It's just not going to happen. And it's the same thing with head coaches. I think that John Harbaugh has done a fine job trying to keep with the Joneses. I really think he has. I know he's a 63-year-old man. I know what some of our friends say, and respectfully, because I have to, guys, it's 2026. I have to respect intelligence. Nobody is just going off of gut feelings. The days of Frank Kush are done. He's dead. We're not doing football based on just blood and guts, and that's it. And that's all ever again. It's not happening. So I have to go off of some of the charts that you put out there. And then, of course, I have to go on with, hey, who's going to help make a roster here? Because it wasn't just Carson Schwarzenegger's measurables that has made him the defensive rookie, the odds-on favorite for defensive rookie of the year. So there has to be something more. So if you can meld that, then you can put yourself together a good football team. And the reason I say all that is because I think John Harbaugh has done a good job. I think that now there's going to be more pressure on Lamar Jackson. Now, I've been a pro-Lamar Jackson guy, but I don't like the throwing under the bus that's gone on. And especially, I'll tell you this, especially the different messaging that's gone on here over the last 72 hours, over the last really 3-4 weeks of, he's losing the locker room. No, the players were crying. Okay, which one is it? Which one is it? Which one are you going to do? And I think that...
Well, it depends on which players' wide social media accounts you want to examine.
Well, Steve, if you're Steve Bisciotti, and you and I argued about this, and I think that, right now I'm right. Who knows what's going to happen next year? If Lamar Jackson goes out there and sucks up the room, you're going to be doing champions pose. But as it sits right now, it's like, you got a quarterback that has a massive contract sitting there. It's going to be easier to replace a head coach, even though it's been 18 nice years for the most part, and a Super Bowl championship in there. It's going to be easier to replace a head coach than it is going to be a franchise quarterback. And I think the Ravens know that. That's why they've made bold moves for a franchise quarterback before. So I have a guy like John Harbaugh. I can come in, bring him in with a fresh perspective, see what could happen there. And plus, it is going to be something that I think satiates the fan base, makes the fan base excited, it satisfies the fan base, and I think actually could get the fan base back on your side a little bit.
Well, what annoyed me yesterday was anytime we'd get the reaction from people, which is, why are you guys even talking about Harbaugh? He will want nothing to do with the Cleveland Browns. And I'm like, well, first of all, we're going to talk about every potential coach because I want to find out, obviously they're doing the same thing in Berea. I want to find out what type of guy do the fans want. And I don't want to get caught up, because I even heard some Mike McCarthy yesterday. And when you bring up Mike McCarthy's name to any of the younger NFL fans, they're like, what are you doing? What a waste of time. Why even bother? But to a Cleveland fan, after we just saw, what we've seen over the course of not just Kevin Stefanski, but the many failed coaches before, all right, Mike McCarthy had 3 straight years, 12-5 in Dallas, where they were not a full-fledged, complete football team. They had their issues, and yet he was winning 12 games every year, had no shot in the playoffs, which I don't know. You got to crawl before you can run. Can we even talk about the playoffs right now?
No.
We got to talk about hey, putting together some good month stretches of the regular season.
My argument. See, for me, it's different than it is for franchise quarterbacks. I want to see something that I think we can invest in and make a lot of bold moves for a franchise quarterback. I don't think we're there yet with any of the guys at all in this quarterback room, this current quarterback room here, and I'll talk more about that coming up in a little bit. I think with the head coach, though, I think it's the reverse. If we are in a position where it's a Sean McDermott type of situation, I would like to be in a Sean McDermott type of situation where, hey man, you lose to the Jaguars this week, you could be done. We could be tired of this. We could be tired of doing the musical coordinators. That's it. I'd like to be in that spot, but I got to crawl before I walk. Like, I do believe there's such a thing as a transitional head coach. I do believe there's guys who are in terms of builders. I think that there are guys that help you calm the waters, and then they become, I hate to say it, the not the scapegoat, but the sacrifice, and then other guys take over. And then maybe they take you to that other level. Now, there's guys that they just hold on to the job and they take it to a different level, and that's it. But I do believe there are coaches like that who are better builders, or guys who, again, just calm things down. You know, people were very critical of Jim Caldwell. If you make a good hire after Jim Caldwell, you're dancing. But a guy like that, not that I don't think he's a candidate for the Browns, I don't think, right? Jim Caldwell? He's retired, and he's old.
Yeah.
A guy like Jim Caldwell got criticized for being around 500. I go, no, he's a professional, good enough head coach to calm everybody down. You're not going to have stupidity. You're going to lose some stupid games. You're going to lose some silly games, obviously, but you're going to win some games. You're going to go around 500, and then you got to figure out what you're going to do after that. I thought he was perfectly fine for a transitional period. This team right now, I don't know what their identity truly is, and it's a question I ask all the time. And it's not about, well, they got to find it. They got to be No. Where are you at? Because they insist they're better than a 5-win team and better than a 3-win team last year. That comes down to whether or not you believe it. Because I think so many times we get caught changing cultures, not just head coaches. We want to change cultures. Well, they're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're going to keep this type of system because they think they're closer than what we are.
That question keeps coming up, and I think it's a fair question because you got to understand, like, I think some people are delusional when, you know, they talk about what this team should have done last year. And while I totally understand, like, yeah, special teams should have been way better, but think about it. Your elite defense counterbalanced your ineptitude on offense. Mm-hmm. So that kind of feels like they belong where they belong. Like, yeah, there are other games they should have won, but should they have won the Green Bay game? No, absolutely not.
No.
So, like, you could do it that way. The Pittsburgh Steeler game, the Cincinnati game at the end of the year. I mean, the way that game was going, I mean, Cincinnati, the first few drives, just moved the ball right up and down the field. Like, if they just scored touchdowns on those first two drives, do we lose 35-0? Like, would we have given up? Just trying to get Myles Garrett a sack and get on Dodge?
Probably.
Like, that's the way that game was heading.
Had there not been a tip ball by Shelby Harris, yeah, you know what?
Right, so I think their win total is their win total. Like, I think when you have an elite defense and the worst quarterback play in the NFL, or some of the worst, like, that's probably what your record should be.
I think you're right about that. They don't. They don't. And I think a guy like, I heard Mike Florio yesterday with Baskin and Phelps, and I happen to agree with his sentiment about going out and getting a coach that fans would really believe in.
What a dysfunctional team is going to do. A properly functioning team would be at the front of the line to try to hire John Harbaugh, period. And I'd like to think that the decision to make Kevin Stefanski the fall guy for the disastrous and dysfunctional Deshaun Watson trade and contract, I'd like to think they had a plan for upgrading above Kevin Stefanski, and that they have someone in mind who would be willing to take that job. Because frankly, if I have options, I'm not taking that job. I'm not going to work for the Browns. No way, no how. And the Browns need someone that the fans will feel good about, not just because the Browns need them to renew their season tickets. I think this move was about the inevitable PSL prices that are going to come out. Unless you swing for the fences and bring in a big name, an established name that's going to cause people to believe things will change, even if they don't, You need them to think things will change. So if they don't already have somebody else in mind, they need to get after Harbaugh immediately.
I flat out disagree with Florio on the second part of that. If they only cared about
part?
If they only cared about PSLs, which I'm sure are going to be a very steep price, if they only cared about PSLs, they would have fired Andrew Berry too.
I feel like that
they know how the fans feel about Andrew Berry.
When I heard him say that, and I've seen some people along the ways talk about, well, they're gonna. This all is about the dome. They're not even worried about this. They're worried about the dome. I'm like, okay, that's the next one. That could be the next. Like that means if this is just a terrible year, then yes. But remember, who are the big names coming into this hiring cycle? We didn't know if Harbaugh would be available. We don't know if Tomlin's going to be available.
I really thought Harbaugh was just a smoke and mirror conversation of passing fancy.
I don't think people realistically thought,
I agree with
things
you.
were simmering in Baltimore. And again, after that Baltimore Sun piece came out about Lamar, that only comes out if there is a bigger divide behind the scenes than I think people recognize. So that should have sounded more alarm bells. But I will say, like, the dome stuff and the PSLs, and we gotta be, full systems go when the dome opens up in 2029. I think that's the next thing.
I agree with you, because we are still 4 years away. There's a lot of things that can happen in the next 4 years.
They haven't even broken ground yet, have they?
And I think that Florio has said that too soon. I think if we were in 2020, and we could very well, I know he's saying, because PSL prices will be put out much earlier than when they're done with the stadium. But I think Florio's just a little bit too early on something like that. Not that he could be right, not that he couldn't be right in a year or two. But I think that if they only cared about PSLs, they would have just gotten rid of Andrew Berry too and had a complete culture, quote unquote, reset, anything like that. I think they think that they're a lot closer than what you and I think they are. And I think that that's part of the reason why Tommy Rees is going to interview, why Jim Schwartz is going to interview, because I think that they could look at it and go, we are here, we just need to be there, we don't need to make any big changes, and we like what we have with some of the things that we have. I disagree with a lot of it. I think that there are major changes that you have to make, and are you willing to weather the storm going into after next year, where I still don't think you're going to be that great of a football team? Maybe you're a 6-win football team next year. And if you're only a 6-win football team next year, again, we could be in the same exact spot. So I don't think I trust you to be able to weather this, because you believe that we're going to be closer. Because then we still are. Miles will be 31. Denzel will be, like, we do all the arguments we've had this year. We are just going to have them again next year. Are you willing to keep going down that road? I don't believe you are. So in this cycle, I think, yes, I would like them to get a more well-known name. I think the well-known name that's really in play, is Jim Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz, yeah.
I think that the so well-known name, Tommy Rees, I told you guys this a couple of months ago. I thought he was auditioning for the job. You didn't disagree with me on that, because I thought in so many ways he was auditioning for the job. And he got part of that audition over the last couple of months, and we'll find out, because I think they look at him and go, hey, he's a smart guy. He's 33 years old.
Telling you.
And he's an offensive guy. And I know that you are not going to like that hire if they make that hire. So that will still, even though I might not be thrilled with the hire, I might be smiling, because I'm going to wait for you to blow your stack, because you rarely get to blow your stack. I do it every other day.
We had the English guy yesterday, the Ted Lasso guy.
Reverse Ted Lasso.
Dan Pitcher today. The Cincinnati Bengals not play caller, who's an offensive mind and young. I'm telling you, the more and more names come out like that, Jim Schwartz is going to become more and more popular with Browns fans.
He's going to sound great. Because you did see the one, damn it, what's his name? It was Connor Hughes, I think his name is. The guy from the New York Daily News, who said that Harbaugh is like they're honing in on Harbaugh already out there with the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, poor Kevin. Is he getting used by the Giants?
He was a guy you could interview right away.
Let me ask the fans here. Will the right name get you back on board? Does it have to be a Harbaugh? Does it have to be McCarthy? Does it have to be Cignetti? I don't think there's a chance in hell, but fine, let's throw that name out there. Will the right name get you back on board? 216-474-0092. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, 820. Mary Kay Cabot. Who are the Browns maybe honing in on? We'll talk to her on the Fan.
Anthony Lima. iceberg machine where one domino will affect another domino. So if we get a gust of wind in here, the whole broadcast gets knocked out. We have to have the engineers.
Yeah. You know what this is?
What's that?
He won't say anything to the other guys. They're older than him. He has no problem cussing me out. Hell, you know what? That's one of the things. Remember that? Who was it? Was it Bobby Mitchell? Bobby Mitchell used to say that Paul Brown would rip Bobby Mitchell up and down when he was really just trying to talk to Jim Brown.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
I'm the Bobby Mitchell here, and Jeff and Andy and everybody else, they're the Jim Brown. That's what it is. I'm the one who gets cussed out because he won't say it to anybody else.
By the way,
fine.
Quickly, you mentioned...
That's the cross I bear.
You mentioned Shador Sanders. 3 were arrested yesterday. Remember when he was at the first game that he actually played in or whatever, and he immediately, his house gets robbed, which happened to Joe Burrow, happened to Travis Kelce. There's a slew of athletes.
Yeah.
And they got these guys, and I'm thinking, how could they have got these guys already? And I'm like, oh, these idiots tried to sell the stuff, didn't they? They tried to sell the stuff already.
I didn't see that part if they tried to sell it.
Well, how else would they have made a break in the case?
I assume they tried to do it because I saw the video, and I'm like, I can't tell their faces.
No. So that wasn't going to break the case open. And I'm like, these idiots, well, they were idiots for doing what they did to begin with.
Oh, obviously.
Now, they're not connected to the Chilean gangs that apparently were the ones that went after Joe Burrow and all these other athletes. But in this case, I'm like, these guys must have tried to just go and sell their stuff. And that's the only way I could see that Medina County and law enforcement and prosecutors could figure this out. And I'm like, don't they know? You got to stagger. You got to say, as a former petty thief in high school, you can't just go on the open market immediately. You've got to stagger these things out at least a year. You can't rob, then immediately go online and try to sell stuff or go to the pawn shops. Come on. Someone who's raised in a family of thieves.
I mean, I think that, well, what did you guys used to do with the catalytic converters?
We don't talk about the collection of catalytic converters.
How long would you have to sit on catalytic converters in that garage back then? You know what? We don't need to get
the copper pipes.
Okay. What you're giving me is basically the whole basis of the Lufthansa heist in Goodfellas is where he was mad because everybody was spending the money. You're right.
Sit on it.
But okay, you knew a lot of shady characters from back in your day. How many of them were good with money?
None.
So what do they do?
Right.
I'm sure they go, oh my gosh, we have this jewelry. We have these expensive things that Shador owns. We're not going to spend them. We're not going to go sell them because we're going to get caught. We're going to wait a little while, and then we're going to go. And then they don't do it because they're not good with money.
Oh, that's right. We do this because we need the money.
Yes. You're not good with money, so that's why you do it.
We got to go get the fur coat.
Yes.
And now we're going to be in the, well, I guess it's better. Is it better that these guys were caught?
By the way, can I just say that? And I know some of this stuff happened in real life,
or
so let me just
being
go
a
to the movie.
mocker. What's better?
Let me just go to the movie part of this. Oh, I put it in my mom's name. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. They haven't been investigating you because you have mob ties, and all of a sudden you show up with a pink Cadillac. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. Under the bridge, you and your wife, goodbye. Mink coats? Yeah, you think the feds ain't watching around with mink coats? Get them out of here. Goodbye. Bye. Yeah, it probably would have done in Karen, too. Yeah, the suits are right back there. Go get them. Stupid.
Next thing you know,
Stupid.
You got choppers overhead. You got to make the sauce.
Yeah, that's what happens. Jimmy's the only one who had brains. Then eventually he was taking the brains out of other people's heads. All right, moving on. 216-474-0092. Do you need a big name to get you back on board with the Browns? I think there are a lot of people who they are exhausted by this season. They are exhausted by the arguments around the quarterbacks.
So Dan Pitcher is not going to do it for you. Think a lot of Browns fans?
I don't think Dan Pitcher's going to do it for a lot of folks.
The English guy, what was his name again? Adin Dirty. Adin Dirty. Okay, I think what happens is these guys, these Dan Pitchers of the world, they might end up being. Look at where John Harbaugh came from. John Harbaugh, if you look at his background, aside from being a Harbaugh, which I'm sure helped open up some people's minds, some ownership's minds, I'm sure that helped. But the guy was a special teams coordinator. He didn't have an endless resume of. He was in college too. He was working with college teams. Mm-hmm. So John Harbaugh, if we looked at today's present day John Harbaugh, we would have done what? Would have laughed at it.
No, you know what? I don't know if I would have done that.
You don't think so?
Because one, you're in an organization where I don't think the Ravens have won a Super Bowl, so this is a bit revisionist, obviously. Brian Billick, I thought, was a good coach. He's a damn good guest. I know that. Brian Billick was a pretty good coach and won a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. I think that they were seen as a pretty good organization. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it at that time. And then you have a guy like John Harbaugh in there. Jack Harbaugh was an accomplished football coach in football circles. And then there's
people knew.
And then there's Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh is. I'm sure there's a lot of similarities that John has with Jim, but he's not nearly the type of character that Jim Harbaugh.
Well,
he seems to be the type of like the good brother who isn't crazy.
Yeah. Is that the Kubiaks this time around? Are we going to be watching a Super Bowl in 5 years where both Kubiaks are coaching
Possibly
against each other?
it is. And I think that they're considering a lot of things. One, I think they do want to get the temperature of the fans. And I think that they believe, and I wouldn't blame them for thinking this because I would think this. I think the happiest medium out of everybody would be if Jim Schwartz were to become the head coach of the Browns. One, he coaches, I think he speaks to the fan base like a college coach does. I think that he's a motivator of the fans. Two,
we get excited all week about his press conferences.
And I thought he did that when he was with the Detroit Lions. And I know that things did not end well with the Detroit Lions. I get that. They went to the playoffs. I thought that he had a modicum of success. But I think he speaks well and communicates well to the fans. I think that obviously his defense likes him. I think that they have a good offensive system. But would Jim want to change everybody on the offensive side? Three, the other part of it is if you want to continue what you have successfully with the defense, I think that would mean that Jason Tarver would stay and a couple of people in the defense would stay as far as coaching is concerned. And I think that would probably be a very good thing for everybody involved here. So of the realistic names, like John Harbaugh is going to have the pick of the litter. And I heard Pat Kerwin say this yesterday, credit where it's due. I thought it was a great point, is yes, he thinks that he will talk to everybody, that John Harbaugh will talk to the Browns. But the difference is that John Harbaugh is going to be interviewing the owners.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Yes.
Tommy Rees goes in there, and it's going to be, but John Harbaugh, he's 63. He has no time to waste. And he has the cachet to go in there and say, no, I'm not going to be a part of this situation. I've done enough in this business. I've made enough in this business. My legend is pretty safe, to be honest with you. It wasn't like he had a 3-13, 3-14 season and the ass fell out of things. It came to an end. He doesn't need to do that. So John Harbaugh is a pie-in-the-sky idea that, I would like to go after. Certainly, I want to go after. I want to go after John Harbaugh, and I would love to bring him in. I'd do a lot of things to bring John Harbaugh in. But I'd be pretty excited if it were Jim Schwartz. I don't know how excited I would be with a lot of the other ones. And I think for a lot of fans out there, if you were to get Dan Pitcher, if you were to have Tommy Rees, let's call it what it is, I think a lot of people would just say, yeah, you went and you got the generic serial version of Kevin Stefanski. As I think that's what a lot of fans would say. 216-474-0092. So if you had Jim, I do think that's a chance to, one, keep your vision the way you want it offensively, whatever that is, and certainly defensively. And two, I think it is a way to excite the fan base. Coming up at 8:20, Mary Kay Cabot. I want to know how much of a chance she thinks that Jim Harbaugh has to be the head coach of this football team. I'm going to get to you guys on whether or not that you need the right name to get you back on board. And better than what we have doesn't mean it's what we need. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima on the Fan. Peter and Company Jewelers in
Don't let a leak sideline you. Family-owned Integrated Restoration is your best defense as your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration. We provide fast, professional residential water restoration to get your home back in the game. Visit integratedrestoration.us.
Headline sports news every 20 minutes from the University Hospital's sports desk. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Hell yeah, welcome back to the show. Mary Kay Cabot, 8:20 this morning. Also, the end of an era for an all-star that nearly had me ejected from a game. That's at 7:45 and about last night. Wild times. Hell of a day. 216-474-0092. Coming up at 7 o'clock. Just because he's better than what we have doesn't mean he's what we need. I want to get to some of these calls here, though. Do you have anything to say before we get to the calls on whether or not a big name will get you back on board with the Browns and their plan, whatever that might be?
And are people even remotely considering Jim Schwartz to be a, quote, big name? Because I think his name is going to grow when you continue to see who they interview.
Well, let me go to the phones. 216-474-0092. Dave in Cleveland. Dave, you're next up on the Fan.
Hey, morning, fellas.
Hey. Morning, Dave.
Hey, last segment, Ken, you said something that you were thinking the Browns are waiting to make a decision for the head coach from taking the temperature of the fans. How do the Browns go about doing that? Because I personally have never been asked my opinion or anything. Do you think they're just listening to 92.3?
Well, no,
and making a decision
partners,
in regards?
No. Let me explain myself. Stay with me here, Dave. I think if it comes down to it, there is, like, if you could go out and get John Harbaugh, you go get John Harbaugh. Would you?
Yes.
Okay. I think that they're trying to meld what's going to, because they have made overtures to get fans on their side before. You remember when they went 1-31 and they wrote the letter and everything like that? The Haslams put the letter out. They've made overtures to get you on their side before. I think that they look at this and I don't think they want to make major changes. They've committed to this, but they're thinking our fans are not down with the cause right now. How do we get them down with the cause? What's a bigger name that we could live with that the fans would really, really like? I think it's Jim. If it were Tommy Rees, I think that you guys would have a heyday with it, and I would be very, very, very skeptical because, there's guys like Sean McVay, and they end up at 30 years old being head coaches, and they go on to great success, and there's lots of guys where, Lane Kiffin didn't get it right, and he had to go back to college, and he's in his mid-50s now, but he was a total, utter disaster and mess at some of the places he was at before. And I don't want to be that proving ground. That's what I mean by that. Does that make sense? If that doesn't make sense, tell me.
It does not make sense, but as for my temperature, wait till after Sunday when the Steelers lose, and let's get Tomlin.
Well,
so there's my temperature.
Okay, so you're telling me Jim Schwartz would do nothing for you?
Well, yeah. I mean, Tomlin's a smart guy. He might even keep him. Try to keep him somehow.
Well, that's but you wouldn't want Jim Schwartz as the head coach, is what I'm asking.
No, I want veterans. I'm done with newer. Just no.
Well,
I want veteran coach.
Jim's 59.
I know he's been around. He has been around, but Tomlin, experience at the head coach position. That's what I want at this time. Okay. Bring back that guy. I don't even know.
But I don't think.
Just go with Tomlin.
I just don't think he's. First off, he has a job, and I don't think he's getting fired. Dave, thank you for the call. Did you understand what I was saying? If you didn't understand what I was saying, please let me have it. 216-474-0092.
As a quick aside, we'll get back to Schwartz here in a second. As a quick aside, he said, well, I haven't been asked, by ownership. I'm telling you that owners around sports, they do listen to the fans and do everything they can to do their market research.
It's still business. It's still customer service.
Yeah, more than you think. I know this is in addition to the surveys that you guys get from time to time. There was that PSL and Dome survey and everything. But you'd be surprised. When I listened, did you listen to Jim Dolan at all in New York with Greg Carton?
Oh, you're talking about James Dolan.
James Dolan, I'm sorry. Or do you ever listen?
When was this?
This was over the last 2 days.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He did his first interview in a long time on Greg Carton's first show back. So I think it was Monday. It does give you a window to how much these owners do really listen. I know you don't think they do, But like you said, it's their business. They didn't get to where they've gotten to by not listening to people. Like, I'll never forget the time that I met Dan Gilbert at a bar after the Cavs had clinched in 2015 their trip to the NBA Finals. He didn't know who I was until, like, last name. The last name kind of rung a bell, and then he started peppering me with questions. Where do I live? What do I do? Do my buddies own season tickets? Like, because they're always trying to get back in touch with real fans because they know that can impact their bottom line in a positive way. Like, I don't think Dan Gilbert really cared about this strange person in a bar who happens to do some radio on what my thoughts are on the Cavs. What he was trying to do is, what do me and all my buddies think about the Cavs, and how can they use that information to eventually make more money?
Well, and even going back to what Dave says is that, yeah, you would want a John Harbaugh, you would want a Mike Tomlin. Again, I don't think Mike Tomlin's going to get fired after this weekend, even if they lose. Well, after Monday, even if they lose. I don't know if they're going to want you. And I think that if we asked everybody, I think everybody would line up, Browns fan or not Browns fan, and go, no, you're towards the bottom of the list. They're going to take other opportunities before they take you. So what is going to have a chance to excite the fan base? The chance to excite the fan base is somebody who is either A, you probably don't have a good chance at, or B, if we're being realistic about it, is a guy who has experience, who, again, I know that Miles loves him. I know that the defense loves him. You know he's a good communicator to the fans. You know that he is a guy that it gets people excited. And again, none of us would know how it works out. But if you were going to give me, hey, Jim Schwartz or Tommy Rees, Dan Pitcher, Adden Dirty, like, again, when I got to go, instead of I go Brian Flores, Jim Schwartz, down the line. It's not hard to do. We go back to the phone, go Rodney in Litchfield. Hello, Rodney.
Well, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible, guys. Look at the prime NFL teams right now, and what do they have? This is my opinion. First of all, they have an owner that doesn't meddle. And what I mean by that, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Watson. Are the Haslams good enough to sit down and get football people to make football decisions? Because let's be honest, you talk about business owners, they haven't done a very good job with their truck stops. Okay, when you're on the news all the time, that doesn't, just because you own a business doesn't make you a good
they haven't owned them they haven't owned those in a couple of years there, Rodney.
And I would argue they financially they did pretty damn well.
I will tell you, see, this is where you're going to hate me for saying this, Rodney. I think it's one of the most overblown things in the history of anything right now. The only owners I know that do not get involved are the Pagulas in Buffalo, where they basically just sign it over to all their people and just let them do it. Meanwhile, the hockey team, the hockey fans can't stand them. But you look at a lot of these teams here. I mean, for the love of God, David Tepper's in the playoffs right now with the Panthers. What do people think of David Tepper? I mean, look at the Jaguars. I had Tony Khan with a neck brace on during the draft at one point there. The Jaguars right now have the 3 seed. Like,
Rodney, do you consider Andrew Berry a football guy? Because you said that.
Well, that was my next talking about alignment in the NFL.
Okay.
So you got an owner that makes good decisions, which I don't think the Haslams have done so far. I think you would agree with that at least. The next thing is you got a general manager that is willing to hire a coach. He's got to be football minded, and I'm not sure Barry's in a position. He's had one good draft, right, in 4 years?
6.
And then 6 years. He's had one good draft, maybe 2. JOK in that draft wasn't bad, but you can't have 2 good drafts. The good teams have good drafts. It seems like every year, half the guys they draft are productive, and why are they productive? Because the guy drafting them, it fits the head coach's philosophy. You can't run Stefanski running 2 tight ends. You can't. And again, I'm going to go back to Barry and his comment. Well, we don't really believe in drafting receivers very high. Look at all the good teams. They've got at least one stud receiver. We have no stud receivers except now the kid from Bowling Green. If you want to call him a stud receiver, he fits Stefanski's scheme.
Well, Rodney, I have a feeling that is going to change. I have a feeling that guardrail about drafting receivers high is going to change this year. I'm not saying number 6 overall, but I think they are going to take a wide receiver. I'd be stunned if they don't take a wide receiver with one of their early picks, those first 3.
Let me say one more. The 49ers, by the way. Shanahan and John Lynch, they've completely
part of
cut
it is
Jed York out of everything.
But part of it is you have to earn that with a lot of owners.
Yeah.
And, Sean Payton in Denver. Okay, they went out and got Sean Payton because they wanted Sean Payton. They wanted a football guy who's proven it. He's won a Super Bowl. He's won at a very big stage.
But
he has respect around the league.
But if you look at all this, again, the Steelers, they sent their kids on the road. Everybody hates the Rooneys and hates Art or Dan and all the other ones. It's they were on the road scouting. Yeah. They were doing the Blestro stuff. So it's they're as involved as you're going to be. 216-474-0092. Coming up at 7:45, about last night, the end of an era for an all-star that once had me almost ejected from a game. And he is better than what we have, more than likely. Doesn't mean it's what we need long term. That's in 5 on the Fan. Window Nation.
92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
Ty Simpson's coming out in the draft. You want him?
Not particularly.
Okay. Well, never mind.
But admittedly,
Well,
I would have
fine.
said the exact same thing about Jackson Dart last year. And we did say those things about Jackson Dart last year.
This is how you're so good at what you do, because you set me up perfectly here. So yesterday, I don't want to get in a big... I think some people have gotten in some big arguments. I think that, guys, we need to focus on this. Get off the internet as best you can. Well, go to 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. That's where you go. The chat's crazy. They're saying I'm going to the bathroom every break for whatever reason. But go to the YouTube, comment, whatever. We'll read some stuff. It's good time. Let me go back to this, though. Be Browns first on everything. I know that we've had these knockdown dragouts on the internet with people of crazy far conspiracies, whether it be pro-Shador or anti-Shador. There's been ugliness there. Focus on this. You were here before, you were here after, okay? You were here before Stefanski. You were here after Stefanski. The same thing will happen with Andrew Berry, okay? You were here before. So think Browns fan and Browns first. Leave all the arguments out of it. You will be a much happier person because you brought up the Jackson Dart. I got some weird comments about Jackson Dart yesterday. And I went, well, guys, you weren't taking him number 2 overall. I had one call last year from one guy who said he would have taken Jackson Dart number 2 overall. And are we saying that Jackson Dart is the future of the position? Now, there's some talent there, but is anybody saying that this is a done deal, that he's going to be on the quarterback Mount Rushmore of the generation?
I don't think any of the rookies. Tyler,
I'm making sure.
Tyler Shook had great moments this year, too. All these guys, Shador had some great moments this year.
Yes.
That's me saying that.
Yes.
Okay, all these rookies, Riley Leonard in week 18, they all had great moments. None of them are cemented. It is interesting because, obviously, to the Giants, are they picking number 2 overall? When the coaches, prospective candidates are interviewing with them, Kevin Stefanski is one of them, Harbaugh, another one, how do they feel about Jackson Dart? How do they feel? Are they like there's no chance you should draft anybody else this year? Like the Cardinals did when they had drafted Josh Rosen and the very next year drafted another quarterback. It can get dicey, but, I think if there was a redraft tomorrow, who goes number 1 overall in last year's draft? It's probably Dart. I mean, seriously, right?
You think Jackson Dart goes number 1 overall?
I think I think Tom McShay said he would be number 1. I think he said Tyler Shook would be number 2. And that's what quarterbacks do. If quarterbacks pop or play well at all,
but I can't
they go right to the top of the list.
I can't turn back time. I can't go back on time. And I didn't think that they were going to take Shador number 2 overall. They traded out of the position for crying out loud. I was shocked by where he fell. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't think they were going to take him number 2 overall. Couldn't advocate for him to take number 2 overall.
Cam Ward was awful for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And then he came out. I was impressed. I know his numbers weren't good against the Browns, but he's going up against Myles Garrett in that defense, and his offensive line was terrible, and he was making plays. But they won that game.
Now Ty Simpson's going to come out in the draft, and that's perfectly fine. There's been some people who've given him a first-round grade. Because of the dearth of the position, he'll probably be a first-rounder more than likely. I'm not sure yet. We'll find out, right? And I had said yesterday on social media, I might as well put it out there. It's like, hey, I don't mind Ty Simpson. Tough kid. I know he's playing with an elbow injury halfway through the year this last year. I know that's why he had to leave the bowl game or the playoff game while they were getting their ass whooped because he really couldn't throw. So tough enough kid. This is probably where he can come out, make guaranteed money, make a lot of guaranteed money. Good for him. I said, I don't want to go back to the 20s and take him in the 20s the way we have in other years. And I immediately got a lot of pushback on that, saying, well, Kenny's better than anything we have. And I go, probably. It's probably better than what we have in the quarterback room. but he's a much bigger investment than anything we have in the quarterback room. Much larger. Like, we're getting it twisted up here. I'd like to see Shador play. I'd like to see. I'm open-minded to any of them. Now, there was a time where I absolutely would not entertain the conversation of Deshaun Watson. Now I think I'm going to have to. And for all we know, he can end up being the week 1 starter, depending on who ends up being the head coach. There's a lot of things that are up in the air here, guys. And if I have this quarterback competition coming up, do I want to hand it over to not the best quarterback in this spot, a guy who probably won't go in the top 2, top 3, somewhere in there? Do I really want to do that? I don't think I want to do it. I don't think I want to make that investment, because if you take him at the back end of the first round this coming year, you're not just making that investment for this year. Unless things just go horrifically bad, then you're either making a feast or famine situation on a guy that is supposed to be more developmental than number 1 overall. But if you have this guy, then I'm investing in him more than investing in the Browns. I'd rather just invest in the Browns this year, because I don't think...
You mean the guys that are here?
Yes, because I think in 2 years, we would probably be saying the same thing about another quarterback that, well, he's better than what we have. He's better than Ty Simpson. I think in 2 or 3 years, we're doing that with him. And it's not just... And I could be local about it and say, I don't want to do Brandon Weeden. I don't want to do the Brady Quinn thing. I don't want to do the J.J. McCarthy thing.
No. Yeah, no,
I don't want to do that. Where it's like, well... Do we have him? Do we not? Do we want to play him? Do we not want to? Do we want to go back in the draft and go after this guy? Should we have got rid of Sam Darnold? Should we have got rid of Shador? Should we have got rid of Deshaun? Like, all that, I don't want to do that with Ty Simpson. So if it doesn't jump off the page at me in the first round, no, I'm not really headstrong about wanting to take Ty Simpson.
No, I'm with you there. Obviously, obviously we're not sitting there at number 1 or number 2 anymore. So a lot of the quarterback conversation got, muted. And I'm not even sure with our arsenal of picks, could we even trade up to number 2 overall? Could we get from 6 to 2, or would we lose a bidding war with some of the other teams if Hall came out? Because, there are people... More. I'm sorry. Because there are evaluators already that absolutely love him, despite the fact he's barely played that much college football, and there's not a huge track record of guys.
Well, I think he's got to come out. I'm worried about that. I heard Ross yesterday. He's got to come out.
I would be stunned.
Yeah, I mean, he could go back, but that's just good God. He's going to be the number 2 pick. That's a hell of a lot of money.
Think about, with as little work as you've done to be the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft, as opposed to do the Cardell Jones and be talked into coming back. Yeah, you can make your NIL money. But then you're staring next year at not being number 1 overall, and maybe even out of the top 5, or play yourself out of the top 10 or the first round, like Drew Aller.
If you're Dante Moore, well, I don't even think it's just that. I mean, that's the worst case scenario, Drew Aller. But I don't even think it's just that. If Arch Manning picked it up in the second half of the season, finished the season really, really strong, right?
Yeah.
If Arch Manning plays that way throughout next year, you're not the number 1 pick. So you're the number 2 pick, basically, no matter what. If you're Dante Moore. So just come out now.
Oh, I was way off by the Giants are picking number 5. I'd said number 2 before.
That's okay. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, the Jets, Arizona, Tennessee, and the Giants, and obviously the Jets need.
Got plenty of time before you got to get that. You got to get that list going there. So the Jets would be at number 2. Probably would be a team that sticks with Dante Moore. So there's not that scenario that plays out there. So do I really want to give up that much? I'm not sure. And I don't think the Jets would move out of that spot if Dante Moore were to come out. The best bet that you would have to hold on to a Dante Moore for next year is that he just does not trust the Jets whatsoever and does forego the $50+ million guaranteed. But when you're drafted at the top of the draft, you're probably not going to a great situation. But I do think that we had so many people who just believe that this is going to be a much better situation no matter what, as long as Shador Sanders isn't on this football team. And I just don't believe that. I'm willing to go into another year where, Dylan Gabriel's the 3rd quarterback. You want to do the Deshaun thing, fine. I just don't want to risk making a big investment and then having to pay more on this in 2027 and pass that up. Because I know 2027 looks like a good quarterback class. That's what we said about 2026. I don't want to guarantee anything and just keep playing down the line. But if you're going to make that decision, I want to invest at the top. I don't want to go back end first round, and you can give me Tyler Shook second round. You can give me Jackson Dart back end of the first round.
I saw people fall in love with Trinidad Chambliss after what he did in the last game, and of course he's playing tonight, right?
Yeah, he's playing tonight. He's not going to be a first round guy. No, I don't think he's going to be a first round guy.
No. I would not be stunned if they win tonight and he balls out. Like, this stuff changes quickly now that we have the expanded playoff field and these guys get more opportunities on the big stage, especially against good teams, because we saw, like Julian saying, had no mobility in that game. And there were guys open, even though the offensive line was struggling in a big way. If this kid puts on a show tonight and dazzles against those NFL prospects on that front line for Miami, now we're talking about another game. You're going to start.
What about a Carson Beck?
You'll start hearing people. Yes, I just wasn't impressed with Beck, other than he didn't make the big mistakes a week ago against Ohio State. Well, I didn't really see. I didn't see anything other than, a lot of short stuff. There's some nice under pressure throws on third down, but there was nothing that I was like.
I don't think he was tested to have to make those decisions, though. I hate to say it. I was as shocked as anybody to see Ohio State lose, but I didn't think he was really tested to have to make many of those decisions. I mean, there were a couple, again, big throws, like you said, but I don't want to I don't want to be afraid of quarterbacks in the future, but I don't want to make a headstrong decision like that on Ty Simpson just to prove that I'm not afraid of quarterbacks in the future. So you out on Ty Simpson?
Yeah, right now. Now, again, when we get to the combine, the whole Shador thing changed after the combine last year, when real evaluators started talking about their draft boards and those stories started to get out. When people were like, he is not a first round pick. He might not be a second round pick. Like that, the conversation changed drastically after the combine. So I'm going to reserve the right, because we thought at this time last year, we thought Shador could go number 1 or number 2 overall. Like, we were not based in reality. We were only hearing from the Mel Kipers of the world. We weren't hearing from actual evaluators who they don't get in front of a microphone, but when they go to the combine and those guys get liquored up, you get a lot more truth than I think people realize. So we'll revisit all of these names when we get to that point.
Coming up at 8:20, Mary Kay Cabot going to join us on the show. Who are the Browns honing in on? Are they honing in on anybody yet? Should it be Jim Schwartz? Or do we really have a chance to go for the gusto and go after John Harbaugh? And you're investing in the Browns, not him. It's important to make that differentiation. That's coming up in 5 minutes on The Fan.
It's Anthony Limo for Van Scoy here. If you're a man or woman and you want fuller, thicker hair, there's one place to do it, and it's Van Scoy.
Out 5-4. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
The radio home of the NFL in Cleveland.
This penalty's declined.
We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
You can listen to The Fan anytime, anywhere on the free Odyssey app by telling your smart speaker to play 92.3 The Fan. And now you can find us on YouTube. In fact, Baskin and Phelps debuted here at the turn of the new year, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is great seeing Andy Baskin and Jeff Phelps, two Cleveland sports media icons that I grew up watching. I now get to see them on YouTube. Used to see them on TV back in the day. I see them on YouTube every single day. So check them out on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel for free and watch all the best content for your favorite shows on The Fan, live and on demand now.
Sensational. Mary Kay Cabot, just 1 hour away. You get mad. You listen. I know you listen.
What's to get mad about right now?
Oh, they get mad. Well, I don't get mad at Mary Kay. I've had disagreements before.
Do you think
the whole rotating offensive lineman stuff, which I'm right about. The whole the Super Bowl window number 2, which, by the way, go after. Did they get rid of Andrew Berry? So you and I and a lot of people believe that they're not in Super Bowl window number 2. They clearly believe they are in Super Bowl window number 2. They didn't get rid of Andrew Berry. That's not a complete reset.
I think there's no doubt, like, the anticipation at the start of the year every September of the first game. That's the most fun Browns fans get to have.
Yeah.
Then there's the wins. The wins are awesome. There's not many of them, but when you actually win a game, just ask anybody that saw the Steelers game, live, how much they enjoyed that. You were in the 537 section.
You weren't.
Where do you put coaching search? Like, you've gotten rid of the coach that's been bad for 2 years. So we don't have to have those arguments anymore. Like, should they fire him? We're done with that. Do you find an excitement in what's ahead? What's behind door number 3? What's inside the box?
Well, yeah, when John Harbaugh got fired, I was very excited. But it's mostly in the minutia of our own thoughts and our own beliefs and a little bit of excitement, but mostly tedium.
Yeah, and look, we're going to be, hanging on every word of any of the newsbreakers, any of the job interviews. Like today, it's going to be Jim Schwartz, Tommy Rees. They are doing the interviews in Berea.
This is happening today, by the way?
Yes, I believe they are happening today, according to Mary Kay.
I wish Jim Schwartz got his own day.
Right. I do wonder about that.
Like the New Year's Day interview of Greg Williams.
Greg Williams. Yeah. Like, I wonder how Jim Schwartz feels about all of this. Like, he was clearly already seeing some defensive minds that were being interviewed. And is Jim Schwartz thinking, is that to work on my staff? Or what would that be? Does Jim Schwartz even think he has a lead in the clubhouse right now? Or is he like, do I even want to be here? Do I want to try to get a head coaching interview somewhere else?
59 years old. Tell them exactly what you think. If they don't hire you, fine. See, this is the thing about the Browns, man, is that you're 59. You made a lot of money in the business. If they don't hire
a lot
you,
of money.
Yeah. First off, you are still contractually obligated to them until the end of 2026. By the way,
I mean he's making 7 figures, right?
Yes, he's making a hell of a lot of money. So you continue to make good money. Tell them exactly what you think. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Fire you and you go to another place and you make the fans upset? Like, there's nothing they can do. So I don't think that this is any... We look at these interviews in a different way. Like, there will be other opportunities for Jim Schwartz. There'll be other opportunities, obviously, for Tommy Rees, for crying out loud. Tell them exactly what you think. And if it's the right thing, then it's the right fit.
The
if not, then the hell with it.
Thing, I do question, because I thought after they went to the playoffs 2 years ago, I thought Jim Schwartz was going to be getting head coaching interviews.
And he hasn't.
He didn't get one.
And he did. Has his name been mentioned at all since?
Not really. And it's tougher for defensive coordinators in these hiring cycles. I mean, Brian Flores is the guy, and he's controversial, and he has a checkered past, and he kind of ratted on an owner, and there's been a lawsuit with the NFL, but he's been so good that he's going to get interviews. He is going to get interviews. Jim Schwartz, I don't know. So the other opportunities thing, I'm not positive on Schwartz. I mean, I already saw there was a piece in Detroit. Can we get Schwartz back here as a defensive mind? So I don't know what the future is for him, because some people thought once Stefanski got fired, that was it. Schwartz was going to get bounced because the new coach, if you had a strong candidate come in, they would want their own defensive guy that they've either worked with before or promised a gig with, because I know we are looking at it going, we have one of the preeminent defenses. Why would you want to lose Jim Schwartz on a staff? But I guarantee there's some people who are like, they have Myles Garrett. How can you not coordinate a defense with Myles Garrett in his prime, chasing sack records and chasing tackles for loss records?
It's happened before. I mean, Joe Woods, I myself had problems with Joe Woods before. I mean, he's been here 9 years. They haven't always had.
But Myles is a different animal now. Myles has distance.
That's true.
He is playing so much better than he played.
And maybe because of his maturation process, he's gotten more. Well, he's probably gotten more comfortable in doing other things. One of the weird knocks on him, I remember the first year, was that people were saying one trick pony and things like that. Not radio guys, like there were coaches trying to say that. And I go, no, one trick ponies don't get taken number one overall. But they were saying that sort of thing. And now, I mean, the first sack he had was a twist right down the A gap, for crying out loud. So I didn't believe that. But I think that you've seen just how many things. I mean, they had it lined up at middle linebacker on Sunday, doing different things with him. He's clearly gotten more comfortable moving around and doing more things. I think he's been emboldened by Jim Schwartz, which is part of the reason. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I really like Jim Schwartz. And I think that he's probably, of the realistic names you can get, John Harbaugh, got to have that conversation. You got to reach out to him. If the Kurt Cignetti stuff, I think, is a non-starter, but fine. You guys want to call Kurt Cignetti and Marcus Freeman and all the other big names?
You're saying it's a non-starter.
Fine, go ahead and do it.
You're saying it's a non-starter
on his end.
On his end.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think he's coming here. I don't think Marcus Freeman's coming here. But you want to call? Go ahead and call. Hell, it's an open job. Might as well try. But of the realistic names that are crowd pleasers, I think that Jim Schwartz is probably the best. I don't think that Brian Flores is probably very realistic here. I don't think he'd want to come here. I think that there's a lot of power that he's going to want, and if there's shared power, I don't know how well that's going to work.
But that's weird, though. Normally the guys that want power are the guys that have not only coached before, but have had big-time success.
Yeah.
Flores has not had big-time success.
No, but he's been a successful defensive coordinator, but at the same time, he knows that this is going to be, usually get a second crack at it, and you're not going to get a third, and that could very well be it for him. I wanted to play some audio here. This drew the ire of you, what Nick said yesterday. Do I say that right?
What?
Were you perturbed? The internet was mad?
I was getting annoyed with some of the blowback they were getting.
Ooh, okay.
For sharing their opinion about him as a fifth-round draft pick. So listen to this clip.
I'm going to let you take it away. Go right on ahead.
He was actually a much more successful quarterback from the most important stat, which is did you win the damn game or not, than any of the other quarterbacks that played this year. And he did it at a time where that team was on the verge of checking out, or not checking out on Kevin Stefanski, but checking out on trying to compete as a team every single week. He did it the hardest part of the season to do it on a losing team. So I hope that Shador looks at this and goes, well, the stats might end up hurting me here or there, but you know what, damn it, I wanted to play this year, and I put tape out there that says I belong in the NFL and that I'm not a fifth-round pick. Because I think if you still are calling him a fifth-round pick after what you saw, you're either telling me you don't know football or you don't like Shador and just nothing you saw other than 300 yards a game is going to make a difference, or I'm going to go back to one, you don't know football.
Unfortunately, I feel like way too many people are going to fall in that first category, though.
Well, because I don't care about that. I care that the Browns don't fall in that category.
Well, but they might, though. That's the problem, is that whatever this new head coach is, he's going to have his say in the matter. And this is where Andrew Berry's got to stick to his guns and talk about what he's seen and talk about the development and everything else. But there's a real chance that's the only opportunity Shador ever gets. That does exist out there. I hope, obviously, that's not true. And I hope it's not I hope it's also not the equation where he doesn't get another chance for 6 years and then is able to showcase Geno Smith style what exactly he can do. But how the NFL works, they work very, very heavily off unfair first impressions. and unfair evaluations where people don't actually watch the entire games the way that we were watching them and go through the ebbs and the flows, and they just dismiss it at hand. And unfortunately for Shador, he's got to be up against that now.
When it comes to the draft, Jonathan's right. We weren't fair about Tyler Shuck because he wasn't playing in the NFL. We weren't fair about Jackson Dart because he wasn't playing in the NFL. So Jonathan's right about that. What was the problem with what Nick said?
Well, first of all,
that the internet. I didn't see this. What was the internet mad about?
That if you think that Shador is still a 5th-round pick based on his body of work this year, which was incomplete, but his body of work, then you don't know football. Now, I thought people were being too harsh on them, to be honest, and
when you call it like that, that was a harsh thing to say. So if you say something harsh, don't expect that.
I love
not get something harsh back, bud.
I love the opinions. Anybody that comes after me for my Shador opinions, I read it all. I do. I don't just mute it. There are people that just mute conversations. I read all of it, the full body of work, because I want to make sure. I want to stay grounded, and I want to see what the arguments are. Some of it's a debate tactic. Like, I like to see what my opponent is saying so I can formulate, a response. But in this case, I disagree with Jonathan at the end that NFL teams are not evaluating him properly. Like, they're watching every play. It's what pro personnel does because, he said Shador might not be on the Browns next year. Every other scout, every other team's, scouting, they have to look at all, especially quarterbacks, most important position of sports. They're not on vibes. Like, they're not on. They might want to know how's the guy interact in the locker room, but they are going to heavily scrutinize every single snap, especially because you might play against Shador Sanders. So your defense needs to scout every snap. So to say that, he's not going to be fairly evaluated, that's just not how the NFL works. Every team is evaluating every snap. None of it's wasted. That's what putting the work is every single day in a building.
They could just end up being wrong. I mean, you can put the work in and end up being wrong. It happens a lot. These are people.
We did the work on Deshaun Watson and what happened.
Listen.
So, but the thing that I question when it comes to what Nick said, he's not a 5th-round pick. What is he? What, based on his body of work this year?
Day 2.
What is he? His talent. We never thought his talent was a 5th-round pick.
No.
We thought his talent, especially after the combine, I'm like, all right, 2nd or 3rd round, whatever. So I've never thought that I've always thought he had arm talent. I didn't question, some people question his mobility. I'm like, no, he'll be able to take off and run when need be. He's not going to be Michael Vick. He's not going to be Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be Drake May. But he's got some mobility. He's got some chops in the pocket. He also makes some of the worst decisions any quarterback makes in the NFL.
I'd consider him probably a 3rd rounder. But I'm comparing him probably to Dylan Gabriel. That's probably not right. I think Dylan Gabriel should be the 5th rounder, and I think he should be the 3rd rounder.
I agree with you there.
Because I just think there's higher upside there. So you took the safety pick in the 3rd round instead of the 5th round there, where you could have just kept on waiting, and then you could have taken somebody else who could have helped out. And
more
since
talent.
It was a good draft, I assumed it would have been more talent. I think, again, what people are getting mixed up in is that when I say I don't want to take a Ty Simpson or something like that, they take it as if I want to make an investment in Shador. There's no way I can look you guys dead in the eye and think that he's the guy that we need to invest in. I do not believe right now that he's a franchise quarterback, or at least I can't tell you he's a franchise quarterback right now. But I say the same exact thing for Ty Simpson, except one guy I do believe is going to be drafted in the 1st round, and that's Ty Simpson, and that's why I don't want to make that investment. I'm investing in the Browns. I have time to wait another year. It's not where I think a lot of us just look at Shador, and they're tired of having the arguments. They're having the arguments with the people who are overzealous in their love for Shador Sanders, and they don't see that as reality. I think if you went to Brook Park Road in Parma at a bar and talked with a guy about the Browns, I think a lot of guys would go, yeah, I mean, I think he's got some talent, but yeah, if you were in a position at number 1 overall, you're going to take Fernando Mendoza. Well, we're not in a position at number 1 overall, and I don't think you're going to be able to trade up to number 2, and I'm not just going to take this other guy and invest in him because you're investing in him. What I'm doing is right now, as of right now, I'm investing in the Browns. If I find myself in a position to go up to number 2, hey, let's talk about it. But I don't think you will. So I'll invest in the Browns, and if Shador takes advantage of that, God bless him. It'd be great. But that's not what I'm doing.
That's why this is where I disagree.
Hate this. What, you disagree with me or
Jason
him?
Lloyd. Jason Lloyd, who said get Shador out of here.
I don't agree with that.
He's been such a problem.
I don't agree with that either.
There have been little nitpicks that I've had. I would have had those nitpicks with any quarterback. I mean, I all the time because you're judging everything. You're judging everything. But I think by and large, like Shador seems like a really good kid. I think my problem is more with some of his fans who take things to such a level and think that he he represents something bigger. I'm like, we can just talk football here.
But my issue, and you're not wrong there, my issue is that, Jason, I think, is a little bit too focused on that. I was in the building too. I think that a lot of guys, I'm sure that there were some veterans who were, all right, let's see what this is, because they've been through them all when it comes to quarterbacks with the Browns. But I think there were a lot of guys who found him to be affable. It wasn't like guys
he's launching
were mad.
balls down the field, and they're actually making plays as a vertical threat all of a sudden. I'm sure some of those players were persuaded.
But I don't think that, Shador Sanders didn't go up to the podium and push aside Dylan Gabriel or push aside Joe Flacco. The media sought out Shador Sanders' comments on things. The media sought out Shador Sanders' content, things like that, because he's an immensely popular guy. Yeah. But I don't think the locker room was affected by that, and that's where I will vehemently disagree with Jason. If I end up being wrong once the dust clears and we've either moved on or he's become a great player, then whatever.
Here's where, if I can meet the Shador fans halfway, because I said there were some times that he popped, and I was like, whoa, okay, let's see more of this. Unfortunately, like the mistakes, there were just so many of them, and the turnover-worthy plays, like that stuff. Yes, you can improve on all of that. Some guys don't. I've seen Baker Mayfield's making the same interceptions, throwing the same interceptions he did. Josh Allen's he's running backwards, taking some bad sacks. Okay, he did that year one. Some things you can't totally escape from. And so then you get to what are some of the other qualities, what are some of the other traits. I will say one opinion I've definitely pivoted on. I did wonder if another quarterback, a young quarterback, could come in and want to deal with what I call that. Like all the stuff following him. I don't think that's a big deal anymore.
And the difference is,
I don't think I think Mendoza would have been just fine on the same team as Shador Sanders.
I agree with you about that.
I didn't think that earlier, but now after kind of seeing it, I'm like, yeah, that'd be fine.
I agree with you about that. I think that they'd be just fine. But also, I don't find another quarterback worth investing in. My investments are in the Browns in the future. Again, if Shador ends up taking advantage of that, or Deshaun some way somehow took advantage of that, fine. But if they don't, then I know that guy's going to be there for 2027. I know that guy's going to be there for 2027 and 2028 as that new guy gets off to his start of his career. See, that's where I think that people get mixed up in, is that they don't see Shador as a franchise guy, or they know I can't tell him he's a franchise guy, so just get rid of him. He ain't worth it. If I just get rid of him and he ain't worth it, and I just bring in somebody else in the first round, I'm just doubling down on another mistake. And that's what I'm not willing to do. At the back end of the first round, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not going to have more of these conversations about this. I want to get it right and invest in somebody I think is worth it. And if he takes advantage of it, fine. But I think that he, and because of the investment that you have in Deshaun Watson, whoever ends up being the next head coach, like you do, I think, have to have an open mind going, all right, let's see what we can do with these guys, because right now we're in a bit of a bind here. This isn't ready-made. And so Shador did not play horrifically enough for me to say absolutely not to 2026 no matter what. The expectations for me are not high for that football team. About last night, where the end of an era came for an all-star who nearly had me removed from the premises once. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
It's Anthony.
on defense?
It won't matter till April. And I think we know that. Y'all gonna write us off. We could go 82-0. No one would care.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him, how he couldn't please his wife, and so now he's divorced.
Put a damn winning team on the field.
Now the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
So we'll start in the NBA because we had a very big trade that happened last night. I was not aware until I woke up this morning and saw the notifications. And my
Time
phone,
did you go to bed?
I went to bed probably around 8:45, 9 o'clock.
I don't blame you for not knowing.
Yeah, so I didn't see it, but my phone was blowing up this morning about it. Blew up last night, then I saw it this morning. But it is Trae Young. He's been traded to the Wizards in exchange for C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert. And you said you had a story that you wanted to tell?
No, it's just, I don't want to tell the story. I actually said I didn't want to tell the story.
Okay.
But now he has to tell the story.
Well, no, I don't even want to tell a story because it's not that good of a story. You made it out to be like it's a bad story.
That's fine.
Like, you had some story you want to tell, Ken? Go ahead.
Well, so my biggest question when I saw this, I was like, there's no draft capital. Absolutely no draft capital in this trade. That was bizarre to me.
It's not to me only because this whole deal it's a couple of things that they're trying to accomplish. One is Atlanta's just been playing better basketball without him on the floor. And even though he got them to the Eastern Conference Finals, a bit of a mirage way back, earlier in his career. Remember, he was hitting daggers in Madison Square Garden. And it got quite frankly, it got us into a lot of debates like Darius Garland versus Trae Young. Because Trae Young was the best player on those teams, and he took them to the Eastern Conference Finals, but it was a lot of fool's gold. And we've seen over time, Darius Garland is a better floor general, gets people involved. He's not taking threes from half court like Trae Young, but in the end, Atlanta had been playing so well without him. Then he comes back to the lineup. He's terrible. He's got a huge player option next year. They wanted to get him out so they wouldn't have to worry about that and put them over the apron, the dreaded apron. They're not good. You don't want to be over the apron when you're not good. Meanwhile, the Wizards are so far below.
The Wizards are the most unserious organization in the NBA.
Well, they need money. They need to spend money.
They are terrible. They are a black hole. They are where careers go to die.
Yeah, so
Name 4.
For what?
Nothing. Careers that went to die.
They're probably a bunch of Wizards players.
Kwame Brown
over the years.
Michael Jordan, Ty Lue, I don't know.
Michael Jordan averaged 20 a game as he was 40 years old.
Those games were so bad, though.
Rip Hamilton was on that team.
They were good.
I went to those games when I was a kid. I remember being so excited that Michael Jordan was playing in D.C., and we would go to these games, and even how old, I don't know how old was I was like 8 years old, and even at 8, I was like, oh, this is terrible basketball.
Wait a minute. You got to see Michael Jordan when he came back and you said this was terrible basketball. You just weren't happy to be seeing Michael Jordan playing?
It was a little bit of both, but it just was, I don't know.
He dropped 50 in his comeback. Hit a game winner against the Cavs.
I didn't get to go to that game, but went to one or two teams.
In the end, Trae Young, really talented, but is behind the times of the new NBA where they've got 7-footers that can shoot threes better than Trae Young. So if you're the worst defensive player in the league, what are you doing?
You say be gone.
And you don't get guys involved.
Out of here. Boom. Hey, out of here.
All right, so let's talk college football a little bit. There is a playoff game tonight. We've got...
Which I did not know about. Ken informed me of this.
How did you not know this? You're a football guy?
I'm a huge college football fan.
Well, here's
if you're watching on YouTube Live...
He's got the gloves.
You want to
college football guy.
You want to go a blast from the past? Go to YouTube Live to watch it. I got the Newman gloves.
Got them on eBay.
Straight out of '94. Everybody, my buddy Brett bought them for me. You are a football guy if you're still wearing.
Was it East Bay catalog?
Newman gloves in 2026. This is a football guy. These are football guy gloves right here. Boom, Newman's.
Now, are they any good? Do they work?
They're winter gloves. No, these are not receiver gloves or lineman gloves or anything like that. Liz asked me, she goes,
just get the job done.
She goes, what are with these gloves? They came yesterday. I was so excited. She goes, what are with these gloves? And I go, Liz, if you grew up in the 90s, she's like, I grew up in the 90s. So I go, yeah, you didn't play youth football. I go, I grew up in the 90s. Okay, I played for the Dolphins and the Cowboys in the 90s. You had to wear Newman gloves because you weren't bleep if you didn't have Newman gloves. That's how you knew you played. That's how you knew you were good.
That's a status symbol.
Then I wasn't good in high school because everybody passed me up and I sucked.
Anthony, do you think maybe you forgot about tonight's game because when you look at
Ohio State lost?
Well, that is part of it. Yeah, I mean, how much attention are you paying when your team's not in it? But there's so much transfer portal drama going on, especially with that quarterback at Washington, that that's
you think it's stolen some of the...
A little bit, yeah. Those are kind of like the stories that are mostly on the front page. You don't see...
Well, it's bizarre. They're suing him.
Yeah.
The school is suing him.
It is a very strange story.
We're used to schools and the NCAA being sued, but we're not used to the schools turning around and suing the player.
Right, and I don't remember who said it. I think it was a guest that was on our station at one point saying that the transfer portal needs to, that it can't have, that there needs to be like a specific time for it, and it needs to happen in like the summer or some other time, like just not right now, because there's so many other things that we should be focusing on rather than 4,000 kids entering the transfer portal over the weekend.
Well, the calendar's messed up. Nick Saban's right about that. The other thing is that it's a Thursday night. We're playing games on a Thursday and Friday night. I'm sorry. Is this not American exceptionalism here? I this is what I've been taught since I was a kid, and we're playing college football playoff games on a Thursday and a Friday night? Why? Oh, because you want to get in the NFL's way on a set? Okay, but why are you not playing them both on a Friday? What the hell?
I still don't understand. I don't understand how Miami gets to play Ole Miss. Like, you're the 10 seed, you should have to play Indiana. You should reseed. I don't understand why this isn't part of this. But either way, everyone's going to pick Miami. I just cannot wait to see Ole Miss's quarterback scramble and run around, from those monsters. Because Julian Saint couldn't do it. He couldn't run away from them.
He is a fun story. Like, right now, I don't take him very seriously as an NFL guy, but honestly, I wasn't watching him like he was going to be an NFL guy. He didn't start the year as the starting quarterback for Ole Miss, and I saw him at I actually did see him at Ferris State because, again, I was play-by-play voice of the Ashland Eagles.
That's right. You know him well.
Congrats on all your success.
Well, no, I wasn't there he was a child when I was there, but I'm saying is that you pay attention to these things. I left Ashland, but Ashland didn't leave me. Is what I'm pointing out here. So I was still watching D2 football here. And so there was a following with that young man, and he's a great story. Who did you take to win this game, by the way?
Miami.
You taking Miami?
I know he fumbled the ball last week. I love watching Lacey, the running back. He was fun.
What team wins that is the best for college football? The college football playoff. What's the team that wins that's the best for college football?
Ooh.
Is it Miami?
The Ole Miss story.
Yeah, because of the stuff with Lane Kiffin.
The coach.
Yeah, because of everything that happened with Lane Kiffin, I would say Ole Miss.
Does Lane get a ring if they win the national championship?
Not only does he get a ring,
he gets paid.
Yeah,
he gets paid for
that's legally binding.
For every win.
Do they have to give him a ring, though? Is that in the contract? I don't think that's in the contract.
I don't know, but he's getting paid by LSU, not by Ole Miss, though. So I don't know.
And now he's already have tampering charges against him.
Yeah. So I personally, I think for the storyline, I think it's Ole Miss.
Yeah. What about Cignetti being the king of the sport?
It's a good story, but is it what's best for college football?
Well, if Indiana wins, it shows it's going to lead to a bunch of teams and their boosters going, I want to be Indiana. Let's go. How do I be Indiana? Let's find the Cignetti. We'll pay the money. You see Mark Cuban's already ponying up. They didn't say how much specifically, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to help Indiana. I'm going to help out again.
Does Mark Cuban have an endless amount of money? I feel like that man is always spending on something.
Got a lot.
He's on Shark Tank, and then he's
not going to use it for his own presidential run, so use it for sports.
He's creating websites where you can get discounted pharmaceuticals. This guy is in everything. He's just got money. Where he's
trying to say you want him to run for office?
No, I'm not saying
I wanted him. I did.
You want him?
I did. I wanted him to. I wanted him to revamp the healthcare system. I thought he was going to be the guy to do it.
Interesting take. Okay.
Very interesting take. I think that's all the time we got here.
Outstanding.
That's it?
Meredith Kane, wonderful as always.
That's all you get, Anthony.
That's all he deserves. Let's be honest, Meredith. Thank you very much. Mary Kay Cabot, 8:22 this morning. Oh, you guys, you're going to want to be listening right at 8:20 because we have a clip that we have to play for you right before we bring on Mary Kay.
Unbelievable.
Of a former Cleveland Brown that you are going to have to hear, that we're going to start the interview with asking Mary Kay about. Coming up in 5 minutes at 8:01, friends. No one feels good about this guy, and I just want to get a reason why out of you. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work in the free Odyssey app.
It's Anthony Lima for Fanatics Sportsbook. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been saying it all football season long. That winning hits different with Fanatics Sportsbook when everything is on the line in the playoffs. You don't have to wait for that what-if moment and switch to the Sportsbook that protects all pro player prop bets. We're talking about straights, parlays, same game parlays. When there is a first half injury, you are protected. If betting player props is your playbook, whether it's quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, any eligible prop, Fanatic Sportsbook's Fair Play Insurance gives you the edge when it comes to cooking up that parlay. If somebody goes down in the first quarter, that happens all the time in football. In the past, your bets were done for, but now you can turn those losses into wins. Some of the other places, they only take care of you if it's in like the first quarter, but not the second, or they don't do it at all. But with Fanatic Sportsbook, your bet will play on. And those payouts are so speedy with Fanatics, not to mention Fan Cash. Nobody does Fan Cash like them because you're going to be able to use it on exclusive events, merch. We already
But then it obviously shakes everything up for the Browns. Like the realistic chance that Harbaugh would just say, screw you, Baltimore, for even firing me. I'm going to go to the AFC North rival, and I'm going to go fix the Browns.
Let's point out this. John Harbaugh could very clearly decide, I've got 3 years left of my contract. I'm going to sit out a year, and we'll talk in a year.
The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Kay Cabot coming up in just over 20 minutes. 216-474-0092. Is there anybody that wants Tommy Rees over Jim Schwartz?
Not I.
Tell me why, though. Tell me why.
Well, my thing with Rees.
None of us feels really great about Tommy Rees, right? None of us? It just, if he were in any other team, if he were on another bad team, if he were the Jets OC,
nobody would want him.
Boy, that's a bad example.
Well, it'd be like, honestly, and he didn't call the plays in Cincinnati, but this Dan Pitcher, Dan Pitcher is...
That was a pretty decent offense, though.
Yeah, doesn't call the plays, and then they underperformed, and they missed the playoffs. You just saw them lose to the Cleveland Browns in Week 18 with healthy quarterback, healthy wide receivers.
Both of them.
So...
Had Noah Fan as well.
But the funny thing is,
Mike Gesicki.
We don't know what these guys... Like, Tommy Rees, everybody vouches for him. Obviously, Nick Saban. But everybody... who's been around him are like, no, he's going to be a leader. He's going to be a head coach. So obviously these are, would I have been sitting here going, I want Sean McVay, when he first started? No, obviously I wouldn't have. So in the end, I will defer to the football guys on this thing. If they're around him every single day and they're like, he is, Anthony, you don't understand. Like his motivation, his leadership stuff. He's just not the head coach here, so he couldn't really do all that stuff. I just know this. I put a graph up, earlier in the week, one of my nifty charts. The offense did not get better once Tommy Rees took over the play calling. That doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to call plays. Look at what he was working with. They had the worst quarterback play in the NFL, or some of the worst. They have one of the worst wide receiver rooms, the offensive line, blah, 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 blah. But there's no evidence. There's no actual proof of concept that they were better at anything with Rees.
The argument I might have against him is, one's not fair. One's just that he's on this staff and the team was bad. Why? I think there's good coaches on this staff. I've said before, obviously, everybody looks at coordinators. I think Mike Bloomgren did a way better job than what anybody wants to realize with the ingredients that he was given. I think that Jason Tarver is very good. I've mentioned him before. There are some good coaches on this staff. I think because he's a coordinator on this staff, that's one thing. The other thing is, though, and this isn't fair, is that I need to know about his organization. Guys call plays. Tommy Rees, if he becomes a head coach, he's going to be tasked with managing the football game. And what I think a lot of guys do who are play callers, they get caught up in, because a play caller, you're supposed to get yards, you're supposed to get first downs, you're supposed to get points. That's what it's supposed to do. And it's up to a head coach to manage the football game and go, you need to take some of the gas off of this. Our defense just spent 9 minutes on the field here. We got to get them we got to get them back, and we got to get going. Or we either have to make a 2-possession game, a 3-possession game. There's a lot of management that has to go on. Is he going to be able to manage that, or is he just going to be calling plays? Because that's one of the things that I think that have affected a lot of guys, especially a lot of young guys, when they took over. That's what I think affected Cliff Kingsbury. That's why I have no interest in Cliff Kingsbury whatsoever. None. And plus, there was the Peter principle, him failing upward, where he goes from Texas Tech to Arizona when he didn't do that great at Texas Tech in the Big 12, for crying out loud, in a place that's known for their offense. I don't want that to happen. But I can't. I don't know Tommy Rees that well, so I don't know what his organization is, what his organization isn't. What makes it easier with Jim Schwartz or Flores or something is that I can go off other people's previous experience of them as a head coach. Like when Ryan Fitzpatrick talks about Tommy Rees, or when Ryan Fitzpatrick talks about Brian Flores. Okay, that's a bit of a cautionary tale. And about how he became more insulated. It became more of a dictatorship as time went on. I think that he became less trusting of people around him. And that ended up being something that affected him. Because times are not going to start off great for him. You know that going in. Whoever's that head coach, that's going to be that way. So you have to really trust the people that you're hiring. Well, these are just things that I'm going to admit on the air. I don't know that about Tommy Rees. So I can't shoot my mouth off. I can only talk to people who know Tommy Rees, and maybe that when he goes and interviews today, it's today, right? Mm-hmm. When he goes and he interviews today, that maybe there's going to be something there that tells them that they're having the right guy. Something that he would have done differently from Kevin Stefanski organizationally. It's got to be more organized. And I thought that was one of the things that Kevin did well in 2020, that you couldn't get plays in with Freddie Kitchens. You can do barely anything with Freddie Kitchens in 2019. Kevin was definitely more organized. Now, that changed over time because I think they got more desperate. I don't know if Kevin could really handle things when you had other people talking down the line on the comms, and then I think some things would get mixed up there. I don't know if he really wanted to step on toes once he handed over play calling power, things like that. I think that those were questions that really faced Kevin Stefanski there, and what caused disorganization out there on the field. Plus, you had different people having to go in, but I think that that's one of the things that caused that. We'll ask Nathan a little bit about that coming up tomorrow morning. But when it comes to Tommy Rees, I'm just trying to be fair to the guy, because I have a feeling that he has a strong chance to be the head coach of this team. And I have a feeling that if he becomes the head coach of this team, I'm going to have a sourpuss on my face the morning he takes over as head coach of the Browns. Just because I think that we're in a totally different place than the Browns are. I think the Browns believe that they are on the right track, and you and I really don't. You and I really think that there's a lot of things.
Well, it's just a lot of work.
You and I have not been this lockstep in a long time. I don't think that they are very close to being a very competitive football team right now. I think that there's several steps that they need to take that I don't know if they're trying to trade steps or skip them. I just think they think they're a lot further along than you and I do, and really what a lot of fans do. And if you bring in Tommy Rees, I can't help but say, is he the generic version of Kevin Stefanski? Even though technically he was an assistant at Notre Dame, he was a quarterback at Notre Dame, he was an assistant for Nick Saban. There's a lot of name brand stuff there with Tommy Rees, but it's just going to feel like more of the same.
All this has happened really quick. That's not a disqualifier, but it's happened very quick. And after Kevin, I think what most Browns fans are looking for is a guy that when he walks into the room, this is my show. Everybody pay attention, because I'm going to talk and you guys are going to listen and follow, because I'm a born leader. I don't even have to mention it. It's just I exude it. And when you look at Tommy Rees, I'm sorry, man. That's not the vibe that I get from him ever.
What's the vibe that you get?
Not that.
You get that from Jim, though.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So then the other question becomes, what do you do with Jim if you let Tommy Rees be the head coach? Because I could see
you think he'd want to leave now because he didn't get the job?
Is he going to take orders from a 33-year-old man?
Was he taking orders from Stefanski? I don't know.
Was he just in charge of the defense?
Yeah.
I imagine that Kevin became comfortable with Jim because
how could you not?
He didn't have to worry about the defense. That was one side of the ball he didn't have to worry about. I think that's why I was surprised they didn't even move on. And I know they don't like to make changes in the season. I was surprised they really didn't move on from Bubba Ventrone halfway through the year. I know that he became annoyed with having to worry about special teams with Mike Prefer. And if he's annoyed about Mike Prefer's special teams, he had to have been annoyed during the season about Bubba Ventrone's special teams. Losing to the Jets and Titans the way that you did because of special teams.
Yeah.
I know there was a bad interception thrown, but you
when
get
your
what I'm pointing
special
out.
teams are bad, what kind of predicament does that put your defense in?
Very bad one.
Instead of feasting, playing with a lead, and then being able to tee off.
Yes.
A huge difference.
So does Tommy Rees and this would probably be the thing that I would do if I were Tommy Rees. You got enough on your plate being 33, 34 years old as the head coach. Do you just try to retain? Now, Jim Schwartz has a contract. Do you try to retain Jim Schwartz? Make sure that he's here? Because they might let Jim Schwartz out of a contract if there's a new head coach involved. That's Tommy Rees. But do you try to say, you're in charge of the defense, it's still your defense? You're the head coach of the defense. I mean, that lays out a Mike Ditka, Buddy Ryan scenario, but that was a Super Bowl team. Let's just crawl before we walk here. 216-474-0092. Paul and Canton, you're first up on the Fan.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, I want to give you guys a call because, in my estimation, it's not even that Shador would be Jamarcus Russell or Tom Brady. I think you take those resources. I don't want to bring anybody in that I have to use resources to get. And from Shador, statistics will show you anything. You don't want to just go on statistics because then you become Andrew Berry. Statistics will show you that Joe Flacco is better than Dan Marino in the playoffs. What I saw with him is that the locker room loves him. Myles Garrett loves him. he might have had. What statistic shows that there was a quarterback with a worse situation? He had a last place offensive line, wide receivers, special teams. What I saw is a guy who can take a hit and throw a strike. What I saw was an accurate dude, at least a guy that we could put out there. And what I'm trying to, when I see a team, I like the Eagles. They're top 3 in everything except one spot, the quarterback. And they're my pick to actually go to their 3rd straight Super Bowl. So I would like to have that. And if he's not good, you got the next, you have the next class, and as in Mendoza,
Listen, I can only tell you the truth, Paul. I think that it's frustrating where Lima brings his charts out, and all these other people have charts, and he's at the bottom of every statistical category.
By the way, not accurate. I know we think he's accurate because he was in college.
I thought he was accurate.
He was not accurate last year with the Browns at all. It's 56%.
But you saw,
and he was thrown behind the line of scrimmage a bunch too.
But my thing is, we saw what we saw.
That's what's frustrating about it. I didn't see a guy that we need to move on from right off the rip by any means necessary.
My thing is, are you sure a rookie quarterback, given a situation where he was in rather 4th on the depth chart, not getting the first team reps, seemed to have a head coach that may be spicy on him or not? I don't know. But you sure that one of those rookies could have came in and did better? You sure one of those guys who drafting would do better, and they're worth the millions and the extra picks to not really.
I think it's easy to say now. See, I would tell you now that Paul, thank you for the call. Like, if they would have taken Jackson Dart in the 1st round, they would have given Jackson Dart a bunch of reps. It's a 1st round.
It's a 1st rounder, yeah.
That's the problem that I had with taking Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, is that you have a guy with a higher ceiling. We've been down that road a million times, but it's easy to say that now. But at the time, back in April, we had one call and one call only. Of the thousands of calls that we take a year, we had one guy who was willing to say that he called in on his own volition to say that he wanted Jackson Dart number 2 overall. Wherever that guy is, salutes to him, even though I don't think Jackson Dart is out of the woods. Like, that's where we're at. It's easy to do it in hindsight. I got to get ready for another one. And I'm not believing that Ty Simpson is worth that investment. I'm more willing to invest in the Browns right now. Dante Moore comes out, which I think he will. I don't know why the Jets would want to move on, but if you guys want to have that conversation, fine. But that makes it even more on Dante Moore. That makes it even tougher on Dante Moore, because in the back of my mind, we're going to have to invest so much more because of the trade.
I just kind of laugh, though, that the caller did slip in there, because the Shador people still, even though we can't get Mendoza now, they still are very insecure about Mendoza, because Mendoza's having just this amazing season, but his stats aren't that great.
Really good.
And it's like, well, first of all, they ran the ball in 4th quarter because they were winning all their games. Shador was throwing in every 4th quarter because he was in these shootouts. Also, Mendoza, a lot better actually running the football. I don't necessarily think he's that much faster than Shador or anything like that, but why don't you care about those stats? Like, he actually showed even more mobility than Shador, running down the field and getting first downs. So, I think it's a little flimsy argument to say Mendoza's stats weren't that good. What has he done? What has he done? Indiana has a chance to win the national championship with Mendoza as the quarterback and the Heisman Trophy winner.
How close do the Browns really think they are? Mary Kay Cabot going to answer that question in 5 minutes. Plus, you have to hear right before we bring on Mary Kay, there's a former Brown taking shots at the Cleveland media. Coming up in 5 on The Fan.
Real estate market.
Browns content filtered right to your phone during the offseason by following the Browns playlist and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Talk sports deep into the Cleveland night. Overtime with Jake Volnick. Weeknights at 7. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Time to go to the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. As we are efforting Mary Kay and not see that the thing was still going on there. Oh boy. Mary Kay's about to join us. Mary Kay's about to join us. Mary Kay's about to join us. Call her from a regular line if you can't call her from that line. Please. Are you going to say anything over there, or are you just going to leave me out here to die? He's not even paying attention to me. He has no idea what I'm even saying. Are you going to say a word? Please say something while we get Mary Kay on the show, please.
I'm excited to have Mary Kay. I'm excited for her to listen in on a specific clip.
Yes, let's hit this
clip
clip.
That we have from, do you remember TJ Ward?
Yes,
I do. Was he a second-round draft pick for the Browns?
I believe he was out of Oregon.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's TJ Ward.
With Skip Bayless.
With Skip Bayless on the Arena Gridiron.
Yeah, like Cleveland, dealing with the reporters and the media in Cleveland is misery. And every year they looking for a fresh start, no matter who it is and where they at.
Are we miserable? We go to Mary Kay to answer that question. Hello, Mary Kay.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're doing wonderful. Are we miserable, Mary Kay?
He's not talking about you, Mary Kay. He's talking about Zach Jackson and Jason Lloyd.
He might very well be. Who knows
Dan
who
Lobby.
he's talking about?
He's not talking about you.
Dan Lobby was not here when TJ Ward was here. Mary Kay, thoughts?
Well, first of all, I heard that clip earlier this morning. I was up listening to things and reading things earlier, and I ran across that, and I was like, what? It's just so funny because TJ Ward had a great relationship with the media here in Cleveland when he was here. He was treated very, very well. And I, for one, had a really, really nice relationship with TJ Ward, a good working relationship. Oh. So I was very surprised to hear him say that. And I hope I run into him on Radio Row at the Super Bowl or somewhere, because I would like to ask him to sort of explain exactly what he's talking about, because I was here for all of that, and that was not my experience at all with TJ Ward. He was great with the media, and he got a lot out of that. So I don't know where he's going with that.
Whoa! Showdown at the Super Bowl. Mary Kay, Boss Ward.
Mary Kay.
Well,
emptying out the clip.
I have
Mary
to laugh.
Kay.
I have to laugh, Mary Kay, because a lot of this is going to be shaped by, your experience, and then that's how perspective works. Think about his first year, 5-11. Eric Mangini, his second year, 4-12. Shermer, 5-11 the next year. Shermer, 4-12. Chudzinski. So, yeah, I don't think we were tethered to those head coaches. We probably wanted a fresh start. Then he goes to Denver. John Fox, 12-4. He steps away. Kubiak, 12-4 Super Bowl. And then 9-7 the next year. Yeah, I'm sure he thinks the Denver media is warm and fuzzy. They won a Super Bowl. Ask some guys that were on. Ask Richard Jefferson about the Cleveland media. I bet he has nice things to say because we won a championship.
Boy, Mary Kay going Suge Knight at the BET Awards, listening to you. My goodness.
No, it's just funny because if I recall correctly, and that was a long time ago, but I think that I'm pretty sure that we helped TJ make it to the Pro Bowl by writing lots of nice things about him. And, I just recall him being very accommodating, and it wasn't bad at all. I mean, he was sort of a go-to guy when you needed a great answer about something. Now, I think what's happening right now is it seems like there's a lot of vitriol or rhetoric coming out of Cleveland about the whole Shador Sanders situation.
Now, why is that?
The truth of the truth of the matter is that's not everybody. There are some people that are coming out and railing against Shador, like Jason did on your air the other day. And I think that people out there, some of the national media members might hear some of that and just think that, we're all lumped together in that category. But I think for the most part, the local coverage of Shador has been very positive and very good.
Mary Kay Cabot joining us here on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. So, all right, we got to move on to the coaching search here and all the ins and outs and what have yous. Mary Kay, let's go to some names that maybe, do you know any names that we aren't talking about that we should be talking about right now?
No, I don't know any names that we haven't talked about. I mean, I threw a big comprehensive list out there the other day. I left some people off the list that I wasn't too sure about, but I think, I didn't have Dan Pitcher on that list, and I didn't have Adden Dirty on that list. So, yeah, I think there probably will be more names like that will come out that we haven't heard yet, because Andrew Berry is conducting this search, and he's going to reach back into other parts of his career. He's going to think outside of the box. And he's going to do some cool things, I think, in this search. And I think we're already seeing that. So, yes, I do expect that we will hear some names and see some candidates that we hadn't thought of at all. But I don't know who any of those are yet.
Give me a % chance that we land John Harbaugh.
I know the Browns really like John Harbaugh. But the thing that happens in a situation like this, if you get an idea that a candidate might have something hot going in another city, you don't want to be turned down by a lot of people. So if you think that, let's say, he's going to get the Giants job, and it seems pretty clear that that's going to happen, then you're not going to interview him. So as of right now, I don't know if they're going to. I'm sure they called. I'm sure they're one of the teams that called. But I don't know if they will actually go through with an interview, because you work the back channels and you find out if a coach actually, would consider your situation or whatever the case may be, or you would consider him. You walk through all that, you talk through all of that, and then you decide if you're going to actually throw him onto the list. And right now, I do not know if he's on the list.
And, it's funny, is years ago, but I'm sure, Mary Kay, you remember the speculation that the Browns had tried to procure his brother at one point. That became kind of a fun story back in the day, and obviously we know how that turned out. So there's certainly a connection.
At least they got Joe Banner out of here quicker.
Got his Ohio roots, as we know. I think his mom grew up rooting for the Browns, his parents.
Oh, 100%. I mean, his parents went to the Browns game for their honeymoon the day after they got married. So his mom, Jackie, went to Shaw High School. They've got very deep roots in Cleveland. They grew up going to Browns games, and back then it was Indians, but, Guardians games, and their whole family are Browns fans. So they definitely have the connections and the ties here. But that's not going to determine where you end up. Yeah, this was his hometown team. But I don't know what he is going to do. Like I said, I think he's probably going to be a front runner for the Giants job and maybe a few other jobs. And it's interesting because he's going to be vying for jobs with Kevin Stefanski. Kevin was in New York yesterday talking to the Giants. Today he's talking to the Raiders. So I don't think John is going to interview until next week, but I'm sure there are teams that are saving a spot for him.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot joining us. So you were the first to report, some of the Browns' prospective interviews today with the in-house candidates. Are these legitimate interviews, or is this kind of like the Greg Williams, what was it, Kenny, New Year's Day interview that
hung over?
Many didn't exactly
that was just you,
think
Tom.
like he was being given a shot.
No, these are legitimate interviews. These are definitely legitimate interviews. And actually, we've heard so many people in the organization already extolling the virtues of Jim Schwartz and talking him up. We've heard players do it. We've heard Jimmy do it. We've heard Andrew. We've heard Kevin Stefanski in his last interview at the podium after the Bengals game. So everyone seems to be touting Jim Schwartz for the job. I know he really wants the job. And I think this is a very legitimate interview. I think the key here is going to be, how are you going to put the puzzle pieces together? If you want to keep Tommy Rees in the building, you might have to do it one way. If you want to make sure that you keep Jim Schwartz in the building, you might have to do it another way. So I think that's part of it. I think the important part with Tommy, and I'm going to write something about this morning, is the fact that the intriguing and interesting thing about him, in my mind, is the fact that he's got more intimate knowledge about Shador Sanders than any of these other candidates. He can tell you exactly what you're going to need to hear and what you need to know about Shador. Can he be your guy, or is he not your guy? So that's the conversation that will have to be had today, in addition to everything else that you want to show you can bring to the table. He's got that inside intel on Shador.
True or false, if Jim Schwartz is not the head coach, then he is gone and will not be the defensive coordinator next year?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, because if you bring in, let's say you hire a Dan Pitcher, an offensive guy on that side of the ball, or even if you decide you're going to hire Tommy Reese, because that's the only way you can keep him. If you do that, then one of those young guys is going to want somebody like Jim Schwartz on the other side of the ball. It would, at that point, be up to Jim to decide, after he gets this head coach interview, does he want to stay if he's not going to be the head coach? So, once again, you have to put the whole puzzle together. But, right now, I would think that, Jim has a pretty decent chance. I can't put a percentage on it, but it's a very, very legitimate interview.
Mary Kay with us on the show. So, we've had our fun back and forth about the Super Bowl window, things like that. And I went, well, they got to kind of agree there that they believe that they're a lot closer than what myself, Lima, and the fans feel, or they would have moved on from Andrew Berry. So it starts to lead me to believe that, okay, maybe Tommy Rees or one of these offensive names that people are not extremely excited about have a more legitimate chance, because maybe it's a fresh voice, but they'd rather just stay the course.
Well, it's hard to say. I do think that, like I've said so many times on the show, and you guys made fun of me.
We don't make fun of you. We make fun with you.
that they are in the process of building their Super Bowl window, too. And the first layer of that has been laid. That was this rookie class. The second layer of that comes this year with this next rookie class, and they have money to go out and buy players and trade for players. So another big chunk of the contending window is coming in 2026. They have 2 first-round picks and whatnot. So I think the Browns loved what Andrew Berry did in this draft. I think Jimmy Haslam gave him a mandate to go out and absolutely nail this draft, and he did that. And now they want to give him a chance to do it all over again. And also, most importantly, to find the quarterback, whether he's in-house or whether he's not here yet. And they're going to give him that chance to do that. So I think it's a big, pivotal year. He nailed the draft like Jimmy asked him to do. Now he's got to nail the coach and the quarterback, the 2 most important pieces of this organization coming in the next year.
Is Shador Sanders guaranteed to be on the roster in 2026?
Well, I don't think anything's guaranteed right now. I would think that he would be. What he's not guaranteed right at the moment is the starting job for 2026. And I think we saw yesterday that the Saints did commit to Tyler Shuck for 2026. I'm sure the Giants are committed to Jackson Dart. I'm sure the Titans are committed to Cam Ward. So of these rookie quarterbacks, at this moment in time, Shador is seemingly the only one that doesn't have that guarantee. But I think that's important right now. As you head into this coaching search, you don't want to have that coach painted into a corner and have him knowing that he has to start Shador Sanders in 2026. I think you want to be very open-minded about this, even though I know there's a lot of sentiment in that organization for Shador to be the starter in 2026. I think it's great that they're leaving their options open so that a new coach can come in here and decide his staff and decide his quarterback.
Mary Kay, one more question. What chances does Deshaun Watson have to start the season as starting quarterback in 2026?
Well, again, I don't know if I can put a percentage on it, but if they decide that they want to draft a quarterback, then I think Deshaun's chances of starting the season increase a lot. Once again, the new head coach is going to have a lot of say in this matter. if he likes Deshaun and thinks that he gives the team the best chance to win in the early going, and they have a rookie to go along with him, then Deshaun will start some games. If not, then he'll probably be around as a mentor like he was this year. He was a good football mentor to those young quarterbacks. Even Bill Musgrave said he didn't know what they would have done without him. You need that kind of veteran presence in a quarterback room. So it's going to depend on who the head coach is, and it's also going to depend on who the young quarterback is. Is it Shador or is it a rookie? If it's Shador, I would think that he would start ahead of Deshaun Watson week 1.
Okay. Mary Kay, we thank you very much for the time. All the very best to you and yours. Thank you again.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Mary Kay Cabot on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. A lot, as we say, to unpack there about the possibilities about some of these other coaches here and just how good a chances Jim Schwartz has to be the head coach here at Cleveland Browns, and whether or not Lima liked what he just said, or what Mary Kay just said, I should say, about Shador Sanders. That's in 5 on the Fan.
It's Anthony Lima. Time to talk about Van Scoy here, right here in
American Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Sign up to be a part of the fan club. Download the free Odyssey app and follow 92.3 The Fan to get all of the best audio and best stories sent straight to your inbox. 92.3thefan.com.
Yeah, like Cleveland, dealing with the reporters and the media in Cleveland is misery. And every year they looking for a fresh start, no matter who it is and where they at.
Then Mary Kay came after him for that. Audio courtesy Arena Gridiron. Well, you know, such hopes to see him on Radio Row, the Super Bowl.
I laying down the gauntlet. Let's go.
Are we miserable? Are we miserable? 216-474-0092. We got a lot of other things to cover out of the Mary Kay article or interview, but do you think we're miserable?
Yeah.
Kayla.
Yeah.
Cleveland media, miserable or not? Go.
Yes, because that's what fuels the fire.
I'm a miserable person.
Only when it comes to sports.
I'm not miserable when it comes to sports. Everybody says I'm overly optimistic to a stupid degree.
I think it's just a generalization. Maybe not you personally.
Well, I said me.
Okay.
And then you said when it comes to Cleveland sports.
I think sometimes you just don't want to ruffle feathers.
When have I never said what I wanted to say?
When you don't want to ruffle feathers.
What feathers? Wait a minute. What feathers do I know? I don't let him ruffle feathers when I don't want to ruffle feathers. Okay. There are times I'm like, why are we talking about this? All it's going to do is ruffle the feathers. Mm-hmm. I'll give you that, but I don't think I'm not pulling punches over here, am I, Tone?
Just
because I don't say
the miserable
what one wants me to say, one person, they go, well, you're pulling punches.
Listen, it's so funny because we all want the teams to do well. Look what happened when the Cavs won the championship. How many people got to write books? How many more opportunities?
Well, that's just a business thing. I mean actual exuberance of the teams with the fans. But that goes without saying.
We all grew up Cleveland sports fans. People only... Well, I did. I don't know. You did.
I know you did. But
people have only heard me... Think about it. People have only heard me talk bad about the Browns. Well, tell me, how have the Browns done since I've been on the radio here? And when we made the playoffs, you were crying. Real tears. We still get made fun of for how emotional we were that we made the playoffs. I was
emotional for the fans. I wasn't emotional for the players.
Well, yeah, okay. The players come and go, but I care about my watching of the Browns. I was apathetic this year. I was sitting here laughing with a drink in my hand while they were blowing games and the special teams were bad. Yeah, I wasn't
laughing.
I wasn't exactly tearing my hair out because I can't believe we're bad again. It's like, guys, we came into the season with that offensive line set up, that quarterback set up, 4 of them to be clear, and the worst wide receiver room. We weren't going to win games. Vegas had us as one of the worst teams coming into the season. Played out that way. It's exactly how it looked.
Do I dare take any of these calls? Because they're coming in now. And my problem is that if you it's just like coming in hot, guys. If you name names, I'm going to dump you. You can say the general Cleveland media or Anthony and I or somebody on the fan. Do you want to say something about someone on the fan? We'll leave it to that. But if it's like, Mary Kay, this and that, I'm going to dump you and I'm going to hang up on you.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. Are you sure?
Go.
What are you looking at over there?
Oh, we're getting a deluge.
We'll get your JCU odds at 9:45, okay? All right, Ron and Shaker, hello.
Kenny and Anthony, my brothers from other mothers. How are you today? Good morning to you.
Hello. Hi, Ron. Go ahead.
Hey, listen. No, I don't think the Cleveland media is miserable per se. Maybe the dangerous one, but Daryl Ryder. But he's still a great guy, and I love him. But no, I think you guys are soft. To be quite honest, you guys are soft as funeral music.
Why am I soft? Why am I soft?
Because there are 2 questions that you all should have asked in that press conference. One, we say it, behind the scenes, we say it behind his back, but we should have said to Kevin Stefanski, hey, why is it that every quarterback that you've coached has been better elsewhere, or they were better before they got to you, and just like Deshaun, he was like an MVP before he got
Wait a minute, I don't believe that at all. There, Ron. You see, this is a difference of opinion. That's not necessarily soft. Has Jacoby Brissett been that much better since he left Cleveland? No. Has Joe Flacco been better since he left Cleveland? I don't think so. Was he better in Indianapolis? Like, he had a couple of games in Indianapolis where he was good, but that run in 2023 was the best he's done since.
What are you talking about? Did you see Joe Flacco play in Cincinnati as soon as he left here? I mean, he was lighting the place on fire.
Did you not see him throw a pick six and throw his team right out of the game in a game they desperately needed against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Did you desperately not see how they went 1-8 without Joe Burrow?
Wasn't the clear? But wait, wasn't the clear difference that immediately he's throwing the ball down the field because he had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? I mean, isn't that a big difference?
Yeah. No, that's a difference. But Kevin Stefanski's claim to fame is he was some offensive savant. We just didn't get that out of him.
Oh, no, those are things we say. Those are things we say to ourselves to make ourselves feel better about a guy that doesn't have a whole lot of big time personality coming in.
Well, okay, real quick, and then the other thing is with Andrew Berry. I mean, he's had one good draft. No one's pointedly asked him, like, "Hey, okay, Andrew, Jimmy Haslam, gave you a reprieve because you had one good draft. What about all the other bad drafts?"
Didn't Jeff ask him that? I thought Shadell asked him that. We have the master clip of Shadell. I think that I don't agree with that, Ron. I think that's been a point that's been made numerous times, over and over.
I didn't hear Shadell make that comment. What exactly did he say? Do you
Shadell
remember?
makes all that. Shadell handles.
Maybe Shadell did not ask him that thing, but I know that Shadell has. I mean, Shadell has gone right at. And thank you for the call.
I just
Shadell's gone right after.
Like the people though.
It's a good call.
That talk about just how negative. I'm like, man, if you guys were in New York or Philly won the Super Bowl last year. Philly won the Super Bowl, and go watch those press conferences over the last 10 months. There's been no Super Bowl. There's been no Super Bowl honeymoon in Philadelphia. They've been miserable about that team all year, and watch them go and repeat.
Chance in Parma, you're next up on the Fan.
Hey, what's up? Okay, you said we could say something about the people on the Fan, because let alone better not say nothing about Mary Kay.
You better be careful what you say, though. I still might dump you, but go ahead.
Okay, and see, that's the problem. When a fan comes on and want to speak their opinion, you dump them. That's not fair to
If you're taking personal shots, we're not supposed to take personal shots at people. I don't take personal shots.
It's not personal. Okay,
all right, let me have it.
You got a Jeff Phelps who grew up in a neighborhood where 1%. I don't even know the minority there, but he speaks his opinion. Oh, he's in love with Stefanski. I think they might get married. But if somebody comes on the air and says something negative towards Stefanski or Gillian, he dumps you. That's just not fair to the fans.
Dumps?
Okay?
I don't know. You could say he was 8-26 the last 2 years.
Ross Tucker comes on.
Personal shot, Chance.
That's not a person. I said, in my opinion. I don't know.
So if you just say it, your opinion?
Yeah, but the thing, some of the things he said, one time he came on, it just didn't sound right, Ken. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay.
The only thing I'm trying to get is, your boss, for example, Andy Roth, you can get in touch with him.
Andy ain't been my boss. Andy ain't been my boss in over a year.
No, I know that, but you could get in touch with him. You can't get into your current boss. You can't. You can't
don't
even
get me started on him. Don't get me started on him, Chance. Now you and I have found common ground. Thank you very much. Thank you for the call. Chance's call was good because I agreed with him on my boss. He goes out of his way to make my day worse. That's what he does.
That's part of the fun, though.
I know. The other one didn't like to upset the apple cart. Now he's down in Atlanta, and I'm up here dealing with old Genghis Khan over there down the hallway.
I want Stefanski to get that Giants job because I think Stefanski will call a lot of us and go, "Whew, can you guys come to New York, please?"
I look at him and go, just don't say the same thing over and over again. Just don't say it over and over again.
I remember the very first loss, and they got destroyed in that opener of Kevin Stefanski's run. It was against Baltimore, and he came on and he was like, we failed. Coaches failed. We got to coach it better. We got to do it. And we're like, yes. You know what? I'm not happy they got destroyed, but that's the right attitude. Then after the second loss, and after the third loss, and actually they went to the playoffs that year. But after that, it did become kind of rote.
Yep. That's the way it goes. All right, coming up in just over 20 minutes. A fifth-round pick is not necessarily a fifth-round pick always. However, Lima, and it's not negative, at least I don't think so. Lima does have something in a good way contrary to that opinion. And what exactly is in a name? Well, everything if you want some credibility. Ken Carman, Tone Master General. Take us with you to work on the absolutely free Odyssey app.
It's Anthony Lima for Mentality Health. If you're feeling like you've lost your edge, your energy, focus, or drive isn't what it used to be, guess what? Your local experts in testosterone replacement therapy can come to the rescue right now and help you reclaim your vitality. And unlike those
segments. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
NFL playoffs and up-to-the-minute college and association hoops coverage. We've got your January weekend covered. Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
$9:45, we have more coaching odds. Local, too.
And people have been wondering, these aren't coming from Kalshi, but this is reputable. I mean, this stuff is coming right from the Sharps from Vermilion. As you know, Kenny, they don't sleep. I was going to say, well, they're losing sleep. They don't sleep to begin with. So stay tuned. About to hit send on what just came across my desk again. Meanwhile, win a 4-pack of tickets to the Fan Night at Cleveland State Basketball on Thursday. Some of the Sharps might be there for this. January 15th, 7 p.m. at the Wolstein Center. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima will be there. You can get tickets at csuvikings.com/tickets. Enter the word GREEN, Green, by the end of this hour at 923thefan.com to get registered.
I'm getting actually nervous. Can I share this with you real quick before we go back to the whole, not to the misery thing. We're done with the misery thing. Going back to the coaches with the thing, I want to get the Florio going. Florio 3, by the way, from yesterday on Baskin and Phelps. Everybody is getting sick, and I haven't been sick all year, and I'm worried. Because now I'm just waiting on the day where it happens. Because the thing I'm jealous of you about, you get sick, you don't lose your voice. I get sick, my voice just goes away, and that's it.
The late night drinking used to do it to my voice. The partying all weekend.
Yeah, but
remember,
you late night drink all the time now.
Back in the day, like in social settings. When you're at home,
well, you would get the nasal drip, and maybe that affected your voice.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, sure. We had to have, I think wrestling was canceled yesterday. Like, everybody's just getting sick. I'm like, no, I don't want to get sick. I got the basketball game next Thursday.
Got too much going on here, Kenny. Running yourself ragged.
Everybody's getting up.
And they say the Cleveland media is weak.
I spent a lot of time in bed last week. I caught up on some sleep, brother. I had to go down. All right, earlier, yesterday, Mike Florio had this to say about the Browns coaching search, Pro Football Talk, on Baskin and Phelps.
We don't know what a dysfunctional team is going to do. A properly functioning team would be at the front of the line to try to hire John Harbaugh, period. And I'd like to think that the decision to make Kevin Stefanski the fall guy for the disastrous and dysfunctional Deshaun Watson trade and contract, I'd like to think they had a plan for upgrading above Kevin Stefanski, and that they had someone in mind who would be willing to take that job. Because frankly, if I have options, I'm not taking that job. I'm not going to work for the Browns. No way, no how. And the Browns need someone that the fans will feel good about, not just because the Browns need them to renew their season tickets. I think this move was about the inevitable PSL prices that are going to come out. Unless you swing for the fences and bring in a big name, an established name that's going to cause people to believe things will change, even if they don't, you need them to think things will change. So if they don't already have somebody else in mind, they need to get after Harbaugh immediately.
The PSL show, when they're official, is a show that I'm not looking forward to because there's going to be some consternation because they probably will be very expensive. I don't think that this was done because of PSLs, because if you were doing this because of PSLs, you would have tried to make everybody happy and got rid of both of them. And then it would have just been for fans, and that's it. I do think that they had an idea what they wanted to do. I don't think that that idea is going to be a very popular one with Browns fans. But if John Harbaugh becomes a possibility, then I think that John Harbaugh becomes a guy that obviously is going to make a lot of people excited. Ross Tucker was asked about it yesterday on what the Browns actually have to offer a guy like John Harbaugh.
Now the Ravens' job is the best job. You have a MVP quarterback in his prime. But for the other ones, it's such a complicated question. Like, I need to see in front of me all of the different draft choices. I think that the Browns fare very well there. I need to see the cap space. Obviously, ownership matters. I think quarterback matters a great deal. Young talent on the roster matters a great deal. So what's fascinating about that is that there are areas where I think Cleveland's probably the top, and then other areas not so much. The one thing they do offer John Harbaugh that these other openings cannot is the ability to play the Ravens and Lamar Jackson twice a year.
That was Ross Tucker yesterday afternoon. Ross Tucker makes a hell of a point there. Yet I would say that a name like John Harbaugh, these are big names. I think it's the big name that gets the fans back. I think it's the big name that gets the fans going again on your side. I think that you might need a big name to get some understanding of Andrew Berry. I want to know if that's true. 216-474-0092. Do you need a big name to get back on board? Because, guys, this is going to play out. You know the way that this is going to play out. If they hire Tommy Rees, you guys are going to be nonplussed, or you're going to be angry about it. Why did you even bother getting rid of Kevin Stefanski then? If they hire Dan Pitcher, was a name that I guarantee 90% of Browns fans heard for the first time yesterday. Yeah. If they were to hire Dan Pitcher, I think you're going to have more of the same.
They'll have the pitcher forks out.
If they were to hire the...
Owen's not here to enjoy that. Come on.
If they were to hire the name that you brought up at the end of the show yesterday, that
Nate Steeplechase.
It's Nate Scheelhaus.
Looks like Steeplechase.
Which you weren't supposed to say it on the air, but since you did.
Well, it's funny you said that. Peter Schrager yesterday. Another name with some legit buzz is Rams assistant Nate Scheelhaus, who interviewed with Jacksonville and Tampa Bay last year for OC jobs a year ago. He's 35.
That's not going to make people very excited, and they're going to think more of the same. If you want to get people on the same...
People affiliated with Iowa State, pretty excited.
What? I didn't say anything about that.
I mean, look at his background.
Listen, someone calls me, I answer the call. That's how it works.
But wouldn't that be crazy if he ended up a head coach in the NFL ahead of Matt Campbell? And Matt definitely, how many teams?
Well, Matt's turned down.
Right, how many teams?
The $65 million thing was not true.
Not true, yeah.
But there were other... I'm not going to say his business. You can't get me in trouble.
We going to the spring game?
What's this we stuff? You keep talking the way you're talking. It's just going to be this side over here.
Well, if I get you the jet.
You better button it up.
PJ, Happy Valley.
You better call Art Broseph then.
We
might be sitting on opposite ends of the stadium. Tell you that right now. 216-474-0092. Does it need to be a name? And if it ends up being John Harbaugh, obviously people are going to be celebrating the streets. Is the name Jim Schwartz big enough for you?
That's the one. I think that name will continue.
To me is the realistic one.
Especially because I'm telling you right now, this shouldn't be I don't think this should be the first priority because the head coach is what matters the most. But we just had one of the best defensive units in all of football. And man, if we had a good offense, I bet you our statistics might end up being might have gone ahead of Houston because you're playing with leads and you're not. Their defensive numbers were still dominant, and you never had a lead. But I'm telling you, if Schwartz doesn't get this head coaching job, I kind of think he's not going to be the defensive coordinator next year. And it is something to look at.
Well, he's still under contract. Now, in the words of Kevin Stefanski, we want volunteers, not hostages. If you make Jim Schwartz head coach, he's 59. You could still realistically see Tommy Rees as head coach at 33. What's unfair to Tommy Rees is that he's an offensive assistant on one of the worst offenses in the NFL over the last couple of years. Statistically, I think last year they were actually right there with the 1999 Browns offense, which was a literal expansion team. So you put Tommy Rees on this, I don't think it's going to get very many people on the same page you. Now, that isn't really the only reason you should make a decision is just to get the fans on your side. I get that side of it. But right now, it's every move they make comes with cynicism, comes with questions, lack of trust. If you took Jim Schwartz and made him the head coach, it is results-based, guys. It's not process-based with fans. On that end, they would see a good defense, charismatic leader, guy who knows how to communicate to the fan base, who obviously knows how to communicate to his players. I think some people may question the discipline because of everything that happened last year or everything that made it happen on Sunday, which is silly, but I got a bunch of emails going, why are they getting all these penalties and stuff like that? And the dancing and the celebrating after they didn't have a very great, not as good as they had the year before, a very great 2024. Like there will be all those questions that are thrown in there. But honestly, they will be all ancillary. They're not the main thing. The main thing would be that Jim Schwartz would be the head coach, and I think a lot of people here really like Jim Schwartz. He's the most realistic of the big names. But you go and you get some of these other guys, and I'm going to try to keep an open mind, but if the best thing I can say is I'm going to try to keep an open mind, I think a lot of people are going to be thinking we're on our way to a disaster. 216-474-0092. Mike in Stowe, you're first up on the fan. Hello.
Hey, guys. Good morning. It's been a minute. How you guys doing?
Not
Happy New Year.
too bad, Mike. Thank you very much. Same to you. Wait a minute. It's January 8th. You're not allowed to say Happy New Year anymore. But final
I
time.
haven't talked to you guys. I'm sorry. I haven't talked to you guys. I'm just being official. I apologize.
It's okay, buddy. You go right on ahead.
All right. So, I don't want to, I'm going to just let everybody know that they can quit dreaming about John Harbaugh. Let's look at that from a coach's perspective. This is a guy who was 18 years in a stable franchise. And I will say this about John. He was great in his first 10. He hasn't been so great in his last 8. I'll leave that out of it. But the chance of us thinking we're going to get him, let's put it in perspective. Like I said, from a coach's thought. We just fired a coach who was considered, and I'm not getting into this whole coach of the year thing. I get it. A lot of people respect that award. But from a coach's perspective, he was chosen best in his field out of 32 guys twice out of 6 years. He dealt with a lineup that we know what happened with the trade. We understand what Andrew Berry did not do with his first 5 drafts, which is much at all. He finally succeeded in his last one. So now we've fired that coach that had that success, although he hasn't had it the last 2 years. But we all can agree the offensive line, the wide receivers were probably the biggest reason this team was terrible this year, not necessarily the coaching. And now we want to think that we're going to get John Harbaugh to come to this mess when we've got a general manager that's still here after all of that, and maybe he's here 1 year. Well, guess what happens? What happens if Barry stinks this year in the draft? You think he's going to be back? No. So Harbaugh takes the job.
Well, now, wait a minute. Now, on the surface, I think all that's correct. But if we're talking about stability, one of the things I've been bothered by, and I even got cross with my own bosses over at 8 for a second because they're going, well, we're going through another coaching search. I go, guys, it's been 6 years. It's been 6 years. He got 6 years, and the last 2 years he's won 8 games. That's not very good. They kept him. We're arguing about stability. It's not our version of stability because they're not winning, but in the NFL circles, that's stable.
Ken, did we go into this season with a roster and an approach to try to win this year? Honestly, do we really think that as objective fans, do we really think that this team approached this year with a let's go win attitude, or I'm not going to use that tank word because we didn't do very good at the end of it. But I think that was more likely our approach. We were looking for a draft, meaning we knew we were going to be good, so we were looking at our draft pick a lot more than we were trying to win. So we didn't do enough. But I just don't see why in the world anybody would think that and I'm not to mention, I didn't even mention, who's our owner, Jimmy Haslam? What a clown show. There's no way that John Harbaugh, coming from that stable franchise, was even going to consider us. So all you fans and anybody else who talks on the station wants to think that, think again.
Well, wait a minute now. What about Mark Davis, who dresses like a giant Cabbage Patch Kid?
Hey, you know what? Dress all you want. And I'll tell you what, you guys have mentioned one thing, and I didn't want to fire Kevin. I should have fired both of them.
Sounds like it.
Leaving one in place just makes us look ridiculous. It's like, well, we're not really sure what we want to do. To anybody coming in with any kind of a mentality and an understanding of what a franchise looks like when it works well, they're going to stay the heck away from us like the plague. So I just want to
I guess we should just give up then. Let's fold it. Let's move the team.
No, I don't think Mike's saying that, but I think he's saying the John Harbaugh thing.
You've got to try, though.
You can try to get John Harbaugh, but at the same time, I agree. I agree with what Mary Kay said. Do you want to be turned down by John Harbaugh and look bad?
Well, you got to try.
You already look bad.
The fans just don't get it. The fans are impatient. They just want to win now, and they couldn't stand it. We lost this year, and it's all Kevin's fault. Well, guess what? Wait till the mess next year. So, look, here's what I got to say about the coaching. I'm not saying give up on John Anthony. I'm not saying don't try. You got to try. You've got to show everybody that you do your best. That's what Haslam does. That's why we got in this Sean mess, because he's got to show everybody, I can do it. He's going to throw his money out there, but it's not going to matter to John enough. I really believe that. Schwartz is probably the best answer because he is the guy that understands that team. I don't want to see a complete redo. I just don't. And I've heard some names on the station, David Shaw and
Mike, I got to let you go because I got to tell you, Mike, and thank you for the call. I got to tell you why I think you're ultimately right about John Harbaugh for a reason that you didn't bring up and nobody else has brought up. I'll tell you why in 5 on the Fan. K&K Heating and Cooling.
Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Whenever you need to talk about the Browns, we got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
We just took a call from Mike in Stowe. A lot of people hated it just because he basically told us all that we have zero chance at all. He's a Browns fan. We have zero chance at all to get John Harbaugh. Now, this is the difference in me and you, is that what did you think of his call?
It's fine.
You agreed with him?
Yeah, I agree with him.
See, I have a better bedside manner. Is that, yes, I always couch it with, I want us to get John Harbaugh. I don't really think we have a chance to get John Harbaugh. I didn't lie to you. I didn't flip-flop. I didn't do a look over here. I just went, I'd love for the Browns to get John Harbaugh. I don't think we're going to get him, though, but I'd love for the... You see how that works? You see how it works? It's like if I was a doctor and I went up to Tone and I went, you're going to be going to Disney World next week. You got 3 weeks to live, but you're going to Disney World next week. Like, I could always do that. And you're not even a Disney guy.
Not yet. We could be.
When are you going?
Could be soon.
Thinking about it?
I think we're a couple years away.
They're still too young.
Yeah.
You want to get some mileage out of that before you do it. He had a bad bedside manner. Mike and Stowe did. The thing that the reason I have to agree with him overly so many times over is that he's going to be 64. John Harbaugh's going to be 64 next year. This is not a situation where you look at this and go, all right, I know that they can create some salary cap space. They can create a little bit more. They got a little bit of flexibility. Look at your quarterback situation you've been in here over the last couple of years. He knows this. He's game planning against these guys. He may come in and tell them a bunch of things that they don't want to hear. Again, I go back to what Pat Kerwin said yesterday. Pat Kerwin said this is a guy who's going to be interviewing the owners, not the other way around.
Yeah. That's 100% true.
The Browns have to look at it and go, do we really have a realistic chance to get this guy? Like, going back to what Mary Kay said, I thought it was a great point. You don't want to be putting it out there publicly that, hey, we took a big swing at John Harbaugh and we weren't able to go out and get him. Everybody would immediately believe that, yeah, you don't have a chance at him. But he's 64. He'll be 64. If you have other possible ready-made situations, fine. And if you're a Browns fan, you can look at it and go, you know what, John? You had a ready-made situation. What did you do with it? Which is some of the alternative arguments that I'm getting on that side. I don't think you're going to get the chance to get him because I don't think it says... I think their world is different from ours. I do think that they try to preach stability and they go, guys, we're not as dysfunctional as you think we are. There are a lot of things that we agreed on. He got 6 years to be here. We're keeping a general manager. Yeah, and all that stuff is great and stable and not for a 64-year-old guy who's won a Super Bowl before. If he's going anywhere else, he wants to prove and stick it up that they can win a Super Bowl.
Look what his brother did. What did his brother do? Obviously, there were other circumstances.
Well, he sent Connor Stallions to...
Well, he probably scouted the next, crop of NFL jobs. But what did he do? He didn't go to a place that didn't have a quarterback. He went to a place that had somebody that we were all like, man, seems like he should be winning more. Seems like Justin Herbert with that skill set. He can run. He can make every throw, cannon arm. Come on. Well, what are we missing here? How are they not winning? And they still might not do any damage. They might be one and done this year. But his brother was going to take a job that had a quarterback. That right now, Shador may be so much better than I think he is. But he hasn't put enough on tape for any coach to be like, sign me up. That's the job I want. I'm in demand. I don't care. I'm going to Cleveland because of that. That's just nobody's played well enough to warrant that.
I would like to bring him in just to ask. I'd like to pick his brain for 8 hours and ask him what he would probably do with the franchise if I were Jimmy Haslam, because I just don't think that Andrew Berry's out of the woods. So, I do think that they fully intend to keep him this year. But I have a bad feeling we're going to end up in this quagmire again next year, and it might cost us another head coach. By the way, if you missed a moment of the show, you can use the rewind feature on the free Odyssey app, powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in fire, water, and storm disaster restoration. But if you're 64, you'd rather go to a ready-made scenario. However, I say that all the time. What about if you're 59? It's just a 5-year difference. What does Jim Schwartz want to do? Well, I think that everybody knows that they're beating down the door for John Harbaugh. Are they beating down the door for Jim Schwartz? Had one of the top-ranked defenses in the NFL back in 2023. Survey said
Not
no.
one interview. Yeah.
Had not such a great defense in 2024. Still better than the average defense, I would assume. What were they doing in 2024? They were not going after him. 2025, I'm only hearing about the Browns and Jim Schwartz.
I know.
So if you want to be a head coach again, here's your opportunity. Jim Schwartz and John Harbaugh are in major differences in their careers. Now, Jim Schwartz, he's an egotistical guy. He's a football coach. I would expect him to be. Jim Schwartz is going to sit there and go, why does he get all this when I don't? Why? This is a defense in Cleveland that we have constructed. I've gotten the very best out of the very best player this entire time. Why can't I get any of this? I've gotten great play out of Grant Delpit where people at the very beginning of his career thought they could go one way or another. The guy went through a foot injury, came out. He's looking great because I know how to put him in the best position. I know how to put Denzel Ward in the best position. I know how to put Mahmoud Diabate in the best position. Aiden Huntington is able to come in and contribute because of me. He might be able to say that.
How about Malik Collins?
He might be saying Malik Collins. I put Malik Collins in the best
statistically.
I saved Andrew Berry's job because of what I did with Malik Collins. Didn't say it had to make sense. Said he might be thinking it. This could be an opportunity for him to go, I'm going to stick it up where for everybody. This is a football team that I can turn into winners. This is a football team that I could take this defense. Everybody loves defense. At least that's what fans love to say. I have a defense that's great. I know we can add to the offense. I have a defense that if I can just make the offense a little bit more complimentary, we can be an 8, 9, 10 win football team next year. Now, that's not my personal belief. I still think you're a ways away. But that's something that Jim Schwartz could sell to himself and sell to the Cleveland Browns. And he's probably, in his own way, done that. He's been in the building for 3 years. You don't think there's no conversations with Jimmy Haslam? There's no conversations with JW. There's no conversations with Andrew. There's no conversations with anybody else in the front office. Cat Hickman, Glenn Cook. Go ahead.
Especially because they're the top performing unit in the division. Mike Tomlin said that last week. A couple weeks ago, he's like, as I've said, they're the best unit in the division, offense or defense, anybody. Well, they're one of the best in the NFL. So if you're Jimmy Haslam, you've been looking for success anywhere that you can find it. I imagine you're picking his brain. I imagine he picks, honestly, I imagine when talking about other quarterbacks around the NFL that they could potentially get, whether it's Mac Jones or Malik Willis, I bet you Jimmy and Andrew have had him in to say, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about this guy? Mm-hmm. Why would you not? You're not doing your job if you're not. That's a guy that's in the building that can offer you all sorts of stuff.
Now, what do you say if you're Tommy Rees? Because I'd be turning right around if I'm Tommy Rees, and I'm saying Jim's one of the best in the business. I'd put Jim in charge of the defense. This is what I would say if I was Tommy Rees. I'd play it out for a second. You're 33 years old. Lima is probably right to believe. I don't believe any of that stuff about Michigan or Alabama or any of that other crap that's out there.
Oh, he was a head coaching top candidate?
Did he get looks at it from other places last year? Wasn't there some rumblings last year?
It was his name is always out there.
So you're 33 years old.
He had some interviews.
You're 33 years old, 34 years old. You're young. You're the right age of offensive guys that they want, of that what a football team would want. You go to Jimmy and you say, in your meeting today, defense is great. That's why people are frustrated. This is a championship-level defense. You have one of the all-time greatest defensive players of history playing on that defense. Let me do what I've always wanted to do with this offense. With this offense has been, I've seen your tweets over the last 6 years. Maybe he feels that way. Guys, this offense has been stuck in the past. We're doing 12 personnel and we're doing all this other crap. Why have we been tying one hand behind our backs this entire time? Let me work with Andrew. Let's roll our sleeves up and let's go after the real pieces that's going to make this football team great. Well, what are you going to do with Shador? Here's what I'm going to do with Shador. We might not be in a position where we can draft a guy really highly, so this is what I'm going to do with Shador. You lay out what you're going to do with him to make him comfortable, what you've already done with him to make him comfortable, some of the things that where he's grown, where radio show hosts don't even know what they're talking about. You can do all that if you want. And then you say, I want to keep Jim exactly where he is. In fact, I want to let him control the entire defense. We'll do it the way that Sean McVay did it. I'll go sit on the equipment thing and go over and talk with Shador while he runs the defense. Empower Jim to run the defense. He's already contractually obligated for another year. And I would say that Jimmy Haslam, if he doesn't want to make him the head coach, he doesn't seem to want to move on from a lot of people, if you've noticed this. If he's making these guys avail, or if he's wanting to interview these guys to be head coaches, you can tell Jimmy, I think, is doing this, kind of gritting his teeth, making these changes. And you could just say this is a horrible setup altogether, and that the path they're going down is the primrose path. You could be pointing that out, Lima. But I think that what Jimmy's thinking is that he doesn't want to make a whole lot of changes. Fine. You can go with this young guy, and he might be protected by what? Good defense. He might be protected by what? Well, you're going to have to move on from the special teams coach. Let me get to Jeff and Willoughby. You're next up on the Fan. Hello, Jeff.
Good morning, guys.
Hi, Jeff.
You're overthinking this, man. The fans, there's one, and there's 1A, and then there's all the rest. And one is Harbaugh. I don't care. Don't speculate what Harbaugh's thinking or what the Browns are thinking. That's the guy you go after. That's Coach One. Instant change of culture, instant credibility.
Well, I don't disagree with that. What's the problem?
I'm saying you guys are going in all these different directions about these coaches. Focus on Harbaugh.
Well, what if he's not interested in me, though? I got to go in all those other directions, though. What if he's not interested?
Well, listen to me. I'm telling you, the Browns. I'm telling from the fans' perspective, we want one focus, and that's Harbaugh. And if Harbaugh's not there, then the focus goes to 1A, and that's Schwartz. And that's the end of the discussion. Get one of those two guys in the building, 1 and 1A.
Well, how long have you been listening to the show then here, Jeff?
About an hour, and I hear all kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is the speculation as to why not Harbaugh would come here. And I get that's your job. I understand that's what you guys do, speculate. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying you don't know what is in Harbaugh's head. Whether he wants a quarterback, what his brother did. All of that.
Use some common sense. I mean, why would at his age, why would he want to go to a team without a ready-made quarterback?
I don't know. It's not my job to figure out. It's not your job.
But you do know. Come on. We have the commonality of the English language and some understanding of common logic. We understand that's the most important position in sports. That's what you need to do. Why did we lose this year? We had the best defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Why did we lose? Don't have a quarterback.
You don't know what's in Harbaugh's head. Harbaugh might be the kind of guy that says, number one, I don't care who's there. I'm going to make that a better team. I'll do it my way and figure it out. We don't know what's in his head.
I agree with that, but I got to be ready for the other scenarios here.
Well,
that's
all. Of course, they have to be ready for the other scenario. But by speculating Harbaugh's never going to come here because of this or this or that, wrong way to think. You got to go in and say we're going to get this guy. And again, I'm talking from the fans' perspective. We don't care what it takes or what you have to say to this guy. We want Harbaugh. If we don't get Harbaugh, 1A is Schwartz, right? That's the guy.
Yeah.
He's in the building. You got his ear. That's the guy you got to secure if you can't secure Harbaugh. And with Harbaugh, you got to get him now. You can't wait for Friday or Monday.
He's already said, and Diana Rossini said this, and I don't know if we put this out, and Jeff, thank you for the call. Diana Rossini reported, and I think that Mary Kay might have mentioned something about it too, so I want to give credit where it's due, that he is going to wait until next week, which means... Could he be waiting on one team to lose, possibly?
You and I have had the same kind of thought about that.
Because I thought it was Dolphins no matter what yesterday from the stuff I was hearing, because I think somebody reported that, hey, they're asking some of these people what they think of the general managers, what they think of the head coach spot, and it's like, okay, Dolphins, but if it's like, if the Bills get rolled over the weekend, you're going to a place that has Josh Allen in the AFC.
Well, you would think that any of the Bills stuff, and that would have to be totally behind the scenes. You couldn't let that get out.
If Jeff, I agree. Number one should be you owe it to yourself to ask. I know they don't want to look bad. You owe it to yourself to ask. You owe it to your fans to ask. Jeff and Willoughby is right. You need to try to go after John Harbaugh, even to pick his brain, even to think even if you go after an 8-hour interview, you go, boy, this guy's really lost it. like what TA is saying and things like that. Like he's not with it anymore. This is antiquated. I'm glad we talked to him. This is not where we want to. You could whatever, but I can't feel like I'm wasting everybody's time and just say John Harbaugh, and that's it. Because I'm not at the top of the list. If we were in New York, if we had a situation like the Giants, as of right now, it would feel like you would be closer to the top of the list.
And now, why is that? Why do you say that?
Probably
Just
because
to be clear with people.
I think that you have more options. I think that you have a better quarterback situation right now. It's not the absolute 100% end-all be-all. It's just a better option for it. And already, if you're going to think if you're the Raiders, probably the Raiders might be one of the second-best options, even though the owner's kind of the owner and, not the best haircut in the world. But you also have Tom Brady there, and you have the number 1 overall pick. We do not have the number 1 overall pick. And if you don't have the number 1 overall pick in this draft, do you really want to spend all that capital to go after the number 2? Or do you want to draft Ty Simpson later on? We've already discussed that. 216-474-0092. The dumbest reason ever I will share with you. I'm still afraid to share. I have one of the dumbest reasons ever why I might pass on a guy. And the coaching odds have changed here in Cleveland. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app. Extend Technologies in Broadview Heights, xtendav.com. Sometimes I'm just staring at that big screen, and I'm not even paying attention, and Lima points at me, and I'm just staring at... Oh, wait, that's what Lima was just doing a second ago. You're looking at 4K, you're looking at 8K. How can you take your eyes off it? It looks so good. 4K technology right there. I told you the very first movie I watched with my brand new Extend Technologies TV was Roadhouse. And you know how that movie opens. So you know it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful movie to see. And just the picture that you see. Patrick Swayze getting aboard the Swayze train, beating up everybody. You can't go wrong. And that's a movie made in the 80s. Think about what you can do now with Extend.
Lots of Patrick Swayze movies. How about The Outsiders? He was very young in that movie. A lot of young whippersnappers.
Stay gold, Pony Boy.
That's right. You could watch that. The amazing score. If you have a great sound setup, which of course you would have. With Extend Technologies, just go... see for yourself. Go to Broadview Heights. Go to their design.
and game changers on the field and beyond it to talk victories, heartbreaks, and everything in between.
We've built a space where athletes, change makers, and people creating the future of women's sports can show up and show off as their full, unapologetic selves. Follow and listen to The Recap Show wherever you get your podcasts.
Listen to 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn app.
Couple things here. The Ty Simpson commentary that we had today is picking up a little bit of steam. There is a large contingent, let's be honest, there is a large contingent of Browns fans who believe that you're not going to do anything with Shador Sanders and we need to move off of him as soon as possible. And that's our right to have that discussion. I don't want to draft him late in the first round because I don't feel passionately towards Ty Simpson at all. I feel passionately about Fernando Mendoza. I'm not going to have the chance to draft Fernando Mendoza. I don't feel that as passionately about Dante Moore. I think I can get there. I do not believe I will feel ever passionately about Ty Simpson. We get into this position all the time because we take guys who we're not passionate about. I don't think the Browns were passionate about Shador Sanders. Like this whole Andrew Berry loves Shador. I don't think so. I didn't think so. And certainly I didn't think so that weekend.
But
I think they took a flyer on him.
They would have never waited as long as they did.
I want to roll the dice and even trade up for somebody at the top someday that I feel passionately about. I want to feel passionately for somebody who's a quarterback for my football team, not passionately against somebody who's already quarterback for my football team. That's how I double down on a not-so-great situation. He is in the woods, and I don't know when he's going to get out of them. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it out of them. Talking about Shador. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We got to figure out head coach, all that stuff. But there's a lot of contingents that are out there that can't stand him for whatever reason. I think some of it's internet stuff, or they just think he sucks. Okay, you can think he sucks. But I'm not going to double down on a not good situation just to get rid of him. The situation with Baker wasn't good. What did we do? We quadrupled down. We did it tenfold to get rid of Baker Mayfield. And now we are in tremendous hell in the position where I've opened my mind up back up to him coming back and playing. Deshaun? No. Can I tell you, going from that to one of the stupidest things I ever thought? I'm afraid to say it to you because I know they're going to make a video of it.
Okay.
I want you to talk. No, you know what? Let me say this the right way. I want you to tell me it's dumb and tell me to get it out of my head. Tell me I have this terrible fear of wide receivers passed with the Cleveland Browns. Andrew Berry wide receivers passed with the Cleveland Browns. Even though, Donovan Peoples-Jones is pretty good for a 6th-round pick. I go back to the game against Miami and that not catch that he made. Field Yates has the Browns taking him at number 6, Carnell Tate.
Okay.
And that one play out of his entire body of work, it just keeps playing in my head. And I'm like, if we were Pittsburgh or we were a lot of other teams, it wouldn't even affect me. It wouldn't even affect me. Just tell me I'm stupid and tell me why I'm stupid, and it'll make me feel better, and then we can move forward with this.
Look, no, but I don't think you really believe that that's what would make you pause for Tate, who's 6'3". Now his 40 time is not going to excite you, but that's not always the end all. Obviously, we've had plenty of fast guys that have been terrible.
Anquan Bolden, you had to measure him with a sundial.
Yeah, that was the one famously. He ran one of the slower 40 times ever.
You get separation.
Yeah. People they ran with our video talking earlier in the week about him, or was it last week? And all I said was, normally these guys that you would draft that high, they would be the guy. And so you'd be able to see how they held up to the scrutiny of being the wide receiver in a program where it's like, that's the guy. That's going to be the Biletnikoff guy. That's going to be a Heisman Trophy. We're talking 6 overall.
Yeah.
But they had Jeremiah Smith. He wasn't that guy. That's not his fault. But he was not facing anywhere near the type of coverages.
Oh, so you don't want to take him?
I'm nervous about 6.
Whoa!
At 6? No, you know what? I wouldn't take him at 6.
Okay.
I wouldn't take him at 6.
All right. Wow, I thought I was stupid. Well, alligator arms is a stupid reason. That is stupid. But boy, that's a good reasoning, though.
I would not take him at 6 overall.
Well, if you're taking 6 overall, you want a bona fide number 1. Like T. Higgins is a 1A or A, but he was top of the day too. That's fair. Hey, give me your JCU odds.
Well, so this just came across my desk.
Oh, your desk.
About 50 minutes ago, I posted, things have been heating up. There's a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes.
Next coach of the Blue Streaks.
I think the agents are involved now, but right now, and again, I have nothing to do with this. This is as they come in, and if you can find your Sharps and Vermilion to throw down some cash, Ryan Polian, 2-1 odds. He is at the top, followed by St. Ed's head football coach Tom Lombardo. You imagine the dominoes if that were to happen? That would send everybody scrambling.
What are some other names you got on there?
Jonathan Cooley played John Carroll, NFL assistant coach.
Do I see Ryan Kavanaugh on here?
Ryan Kavanaugh, I've done games with him.
Oh my goodness.
How does he end up on this list? He's former Blue Streak as well. Drew Haddad, he lives over near me on the west side. How does he end up on this list? That's incredible.
It's a long commute.
Former wide receiver in the NFL.
Podcast 10:15. We're going to have one battle after another about one battle after another. Bye.
Sitting in the studio, knowing that
hey,
sounds good.
Where's your entourage?